This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
From north, south, east, and west, North America, Japan, and back again. This is your home for modern-day wrestling, with the occasional trip back in time. It's Place to Be Nation's main event. Now let's head into Studio B with your host, Scott Criscolo, and the Godfather, Nate Milton.
Place to Be Nation! Welcome back to your home for everything modern-day wrestling. Here, there, and everywhere. Place to Be Nation's main event. I am your co-host, Scott Criscolo. Episode 127. And we got a fun show for you tonight because we're going to go back in time, and we're going to go back in time twice. We're going to go back in time to 5 nights ago, or just under a week ago, and then we're going to go back in time to October of 2002, finally. But I'm not going to do it alone, of course. Let me bring in... He is the co-host of the Kings of Sport and many other great things. And please be a Patreon sponsor for him and his guy and his man, Mr. I just brain farted. I only like him. The Godfather, Nate Milton.
Well, I'm sure Marcus will be happy.
Well, I wanted to make sure. Well, I wanted to make sure that I, for some reason, I had your former co-host's name in my head for some reason. Big Nasty there, and I didn't want to say his name, and then suddenly I get sued or something. So,
hey, you never know, man. You never know. Bleacher Report is blowing up, so they might be a little more litigious than they.
I love Marcus. I love you, Marcus, because I am a sponsor on Patreon. Godfather, yes. How are you tonight, brother?
I'm doing great, Brother Scotty. I'm all in, and I have a feeling we'll go all out on this week's edition of the show. And
yes, we are.
A name that might come up, speaking of the number 27, Scotty, a name that might come up a lot during the A block this week is Jon Moxley, the former Dean Ambrose. And the thing about Jon Moxley is he's somebody that doesn't fit the mold. He's a bit outside the box. And that reminds me of one of the NBA's greatest number 27s of all time, somebody that played up in your neck of the woods, Scotty, for the Boston Celtics. That, of course, is Danny Fortson.
Ah, Danny Fortson, the pride of Cincinnati. He was a Bearcat, baby.
That is a deep cut right there. Shout out to all the Danny Fortson fans.
That's a deeper cut than the guy I said before we went on the air, former awesome Denver Broncos safety, Steve Atwater. So I couldn't think of anybody else. This guy might.
So we're getting old, Scotty, because when we reference people that used to play for the Seattle Sonics, we remember them. Kids nowadays have no frame of reference for the Supersonics.
No, not at all. And we need to have a team back in Seattle because the Sonics are one of the coolest teams ever.
I think it'll happen. I think Silver wants that, and if I know White Tony Dungy like I think I know White Tony Dungy, he's gonna make it happen.
White Tony Dungy. It's like when the Mets had two Bobby Joneses. There was right-handed white Bobby Jones and there was left-handed black Bobby Jones. Both excellent pitchers for the Mets, by the way. This guy could probably come up with a shit ton of 27s. As a matter of fact, I'm going to look now. Let me bring him in first because he actually has legit Wi-Fi and he's going to be on the entire show. Yes, he is here, and that's why we're finally going to talk the greatness of Hermie Sadler tonight, and that is the conscience of Place to Be Nation, Steve Wille.
Oh, my God, it is so good to be here.
Oh, you have no idea.
I took a trip in on the Matrix, and then I took a left turn and got stuck in the Speed Force for a while.
Oh, was it the reverse, the Dark Matter Speed Force with Thawne?
Yeah, Dark Steve was there.
Dark Steve was there, yes.
Dark Steve was there. I saw Dean Ambrose. I saw Pac. It was just...
We here at Main Event are going to call him John Dean Ambroxley. That's his name.
Okay.
That's what I'm calling him. John Dean Ambroxley. That's his name. I love you, Steve. It's great for you to be here. The couches have been empty without you leading us and guiding us along the way. Here are some number 27s, guys. Ready? And if there's any more, let me know. We already mentioned Steve Atwater and Danny Fortson. How about Major League Hall of Fame pitcher for the San Francisco Giants, Mr. Juan Marichal? One of my favorite pitchers, one of my favorite guys before I was born, obviously. Justin will tell you that I watched, Mordecai Brown pitch, but who I think might have been 27 too.
Scotty is actually 65 years old.
That's right, exactly. Juan Marichal. How about former major leaguer? His son is tearing it up for the Blue Jays.
Yes.
Mr. Vladimir Guerrero, who wore 27, I think everywhere. I think Expos, Angels, Orioles. I think he wore 27 his whole career. Speaking of the Angels, what about the guy that wears 27 right now? Oh, yeah, the guy that wears 27 right now. Steve Trout. Steve Trout. Yes, because everybody knows how to throw a 37-mile-an-hour slider. Mike Trout, of course. How about former NHL? I think he's a Hall of Famer, but former NHL defenseman Scott Niedermayer. I think he's a defenseman. Yep. He's probably a winger. He's got a couple cups with the Devils. He might have won one with Carolina, I think, too. And finally, Mr. Milton, former Titan, former Heisman Trophy.
Former Titan turned thespian.
That's right. Former Heisman Trophy winning running back and my good friend Tish would kill me if I didn't say it the right way, the Ohio State University, Mr. Eddie George.
Yes.
Can't forget
now
him.
An accomplished theater actor.
Exactly. I loved Eddie George. He was one of my favorite guys. Loved Eddie George. Any other 27s? Steve? Any Blackhawks?
Oh, there's a big one. Noted Blackhawk, former Phoenix Coyote, hockey analyst, beer drinker,
Jeremy Roenick, J-Ro, who's on the air right now. I do not have the game on because I tried to have game one on Monday night when we were doing the Place to Be podcast, and it wasn't happening. So, and tonight's game's even closer. It's 2-2 I think it's still 2-2 as we start the third period up at the Hub, where Mr. Winson is right now. As the, let's see, anytime, nope, still 2-2 between the Bruins and the Blues, with the Bruins up 1-0. All right, guys.
Hey, did you say Carlton Fisk as well?
Oh, Carlton Fisk, yes, former Red Sox, and he wore 27 with the Red Sox, but then he flipped the script and wore 72 with the White Sox. When we do episode 172, we get to mention him twice, a second time. Any other 27s? Oh, God. Well, those are the few that I have. Check our Facebook page after we post it. While you're listening to this, go to the Facebook page, and if anybody has any other 27s, let us know.
See, I was a little confused because you were asking Steve for Black Hawks that wore the number 27, and I thought you, of course, were talking about Joe Caldwell from the Atlanta Hawks back in the day. Like Jumpin' Joe? Steve knows about Jumpin' Joe.
Oh, God. That's tremendous. I can't think of any others. No Laker wore 27.
I got a couple more in the back pocket, but I think I'll hold those cards.
Oh, okay.
And go double and nothing.
You're going to go double and nothing. You're going to go all in on the Joker. You wanted to be the Joker. Okay, we're obviously going all crazy with puns. So let us talk about, guys, what happened this past Saturday at the MGM Grand Garden Arena in East Rutherford. Look, I'm getting WrestleMania Double or Nothing mushed. The Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas. We are talking, of course, about AEW All Elite Wrestling's inaugural pay-per-view, Double or Nothing. All In does not count. So anybody who does, you don't get to rewrite history. All In was not an AEW show, of course. That's why the one in August is called All Out, because it's theirs now. Anyway. I watched it off Bleacher Report Live. It was a little bit tough because you had to do it through you have to do it through whoever your streamer is. In other words, Bleacher Report Live doesn't do the purchase. In my case, it was Amazon because I have a Fire TV, so I had to purchase it through Amazon, and that was a little bit of a bitch, but that was fine. I know other people. I heard a couple of cases where cable providers were having issues. As a matter of fact, my good friend Mike Valenti, who's going to join us on a future episode of Main Event. He does a great podcast with his brother on YouTube called Squared Circle Psychobabble. They I think they have Comcast, which is in their part of where they live in Connecticut. And I think they were having issues ordering. He was on the phone forever with the guys trying to get it. So not an easy process to order. Kind of reminds me back when I tried to order SummerSlam 89 and I was on the phone with the guy for an hour. And I was only 16, so I was not very mature when I was doing it. But now, what did you guys watch it on? Nate, what did you watch it on?
Fight TV, the old reliable.
So it was still on Fight TV regardless?
Yeah.
Okay. See, I could have sworn I heard that because of the Turner deal, Fight TV didn't have it anymore. So there's something perplexing. I did not know that. Very interesting. Steve, what'd you watch it on?
Let's just say if you know the right people, Scotty.
Oh boy.
I see. I was trying to play it cool there, Scott.
Let's just say I have a lot of friends all around the globe.
Here, there, and everywhere. That's why you're on the main event.
That might provide access.
Aha. Yes. That box. Yes.
Nate, just don't post that online, okay?
Oh, please don't, or you'll never get it again. What'd you watch it on, Steve?
Who's this Nate you're talking about? My name is Carson Swindlemuth from Manitoba.
Do we cheat him and how? Okay. So I heard some people, cable-wise, were having issues signing up for it. So I'm just saying that. But, I mean, you know what? First time around, everybody's giving them the benefit of the doubt. If this was like WrestleMania 1, WWE would have been, burned in effigy. But anyway.
At least it was better than those. I remember when ROH first started hitting, like those first ROHs were just technical nightmares.
Were they? Interesting. Yeah, kind of perplexing. But anyway,
Steve might remember. I think there was one show where like the audio was off for a good 10 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, what I did like about those online shows for Ring of Honor, and I think it was pretty much everything that was involved with Gabe Sapolsky, Chief Carney Officer of,
Chief Carney Officer?
He's a CCO.
That's true.
The great thing about him is that since every single one got screwed up, you just pretty much had perpetual free pay-per-views.
That's true. They lost so much money in make goods.
Mm-hmm. That's crazy. All right. The pre-show was a bit of a struggle. I did get about my Bleacher Report feed picked up about, I don't know, probably the first 5 guys that were in the Casino Battle Royale. I caught it the first 5 guys in. So
yeah, there were some issues. I know the AEW YouTube page had some issues. I think the one that was actually working from the jump was the Turner page, the TNT YouTube feed.
Yes. I heard about that too, because a lot of people thought it was going to be on AEW's YouTube page, and I don't think they actually, I know they have one, but I know they still use the Being the Elite a little more, so.
Yeah.
That was
I think eventually they, I want to say about 6-7 minutes in, they finally clicked it on the AEW YouTube, but it was running on the Turner TNT pretty smooth.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So here was who was in the Battle Royal. Okay. Now they were playing it cool, doing the whole, their way of doing a Royal Rumble. I'm sure this is going to be used for future like title shots. A group of 5 people. 5 wrestlers were given a suit. Clubs, diamonds, hearts, spades, and then the last draw, the Joker, would be last. He'd get number 21. So the first 5 wrestlers would start, and then every 3 minutes, the next 5 guys would come in. That's how it worked. So here was the group. You had the Clubs came out first, and it was Dustin Thomas, who, by the way, has no legs, which I had no idea. Gets me started on how many people actually knew on the show. Number 2, MJF, who made a big stand, or he made a big presence on this show. Number 3, Sunny Days. Number 4, Brandon Cutler. Number 5, Michael. I'll say it his way. It's kind of pretty funny. Michael Nakazawa, who I'd never heard of, but I thought his. Help me out, guys. Who is this guy? I have no idea. Am I supposed to know who he is?
No.
He is like the I guess the official AEW job guy. He's great though. Like his T-shirt is just a plain black shirt with Michael Nakazawa in like Times New Roman font. Like he's just like this boring, bland, generic wrestler, but like you gotta love him. Like he's so average, he's great.
Okay, because I liked him, and he had a couple of backstage segments as the show progressed. Then the Diamonds came out. Isaiah Cassidy, no idea who he is. Jimmy Havoc, no idea who he is. Joey Janela, we know who he is. Brian Pillman Jr., we know who he is. And finally, Sean Spears, the artist formerly known as Ty Dillinger. And, of course, they're doing for a show that was supposed to be anti-WWE, they had no problem doing the 10 chants. Like he's going to use the 10 chants, you morons. Ugh, unbelievable. Then the Harts came out, and this is the throwback segment. Billy Gunn, who we all knew was working for them anyway, but they needed a body. Glacier, where the hell did this come from? Were you booking this, Nate? Who was next? Blood Runs Cold? Jungle Boy, who is a soft spot for me because he's Dylan McKay's son. Mark Quinn? Is that how it's pronounced? Mark Quinn? Marququen? Mark Quinn?
I believe so.
Mark Quinn. And then Ace Romero. Woo! Oh, my. Oh, my. Looks like he ate 10 Rocky Romeros. And then finally, the Spades came out. Very hard to say that. Luchasaurus, Marco Stunt, Sonny Kiss. I like Sonny Kiss. Kind of like that whole gimmick. Very velveteenish. I like it. Tommy Dreamer, who we didn't expect, but he's there. And Orange Cassidy. Who the hell is Orange Cassidy?
He's been making his name the last couple of years. He's been around in Chikara for many, many years in different formats. Mm-hmm. But over the last year or so, he's been getting pretty good in some of the smaller indies with the gimmick he's got, which you only saw just a tiny, tiny piece of it.
Right. Okay. And then, of course, the Joker, which everybody kind of predicted, and they were right, was indeed Adam Hangman Page, who was originally supposed to wrestle Pac, the artist formerly known as Neville, but that didn't happen because of some creative Dragon Gate nonsense. And Adam Page, as predicted, ended up the winner, eliminating MJF. Your thoughts on the Battle Royal, Nate?
I think it was an idea that sounded really good on paper.
Mm-hmm.
Sounded really cool and unique and different, but in execution, it didn't quite hit. I think there were a few production gaffes, which we'll talk about later as the show goes on, but there were a couple production gaffes during the Battle Royal. So it wasn't perfect, but I think at the end of the day, you accomplished what you wanted to, which was have Paige go over. And I think like the last 5 minutes of the Battle Royal I really enjoyed. It was just kind of the clunkiness of the earlier half of the Battle Royal just didn't work for me. But at the end of the day, this is a pre-show match, and you set up Hangman Page as your other half of your title match, which we'd find out the second part of that at the end of the night.
What'd you think, Steve?
I thought it was okay. I thought they did a good job bringing out some new people that many people who are AEW fans, and myself included, didn't really know. So you're getting a little bit of an introduction to some of these newer people.
I like that you said introduction, Steve, because I think the format handicapped them a little bit. Because instead of having guys come out individually where you could have the announcers kind of, yes, this is Marco Stunt who did this and this and this. We didn't get that because you got groups of 5. And it's hard to focus on an individual performer.
And I kind of understand why they did it. Like you said, Nate, it was an experiment. It was a pre-show. They had an hour. If you were to do 20-men Royal Rumble, it's going to go longer than you had here. So you want to try to get everyone out and not go over the time that you need. But it just, production aside, there was really no action out in the first 15 guys. There's just a couple of of spots, like the Janela cigarette spot, which was kind of humorous, but
Yes.
also out of nowhere. And if you blinked, you missed it. There's like the staple gun was a big one. Jimmy Havoc, Scott, is a English wrestler.
Okay.
Known a little bit more for death matches, but can do a little bit of everything.
Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Was Orange Cassidy the lazy guy?
Yes.
Oh, he's awesome. Yeah. Okay, thank you for. All right, I'm trying to get. I'm doing my best. I'm doing my best. But
that's the fun
I like
part of it is that there's, you're going to see and meet all different kind of wrestlers, and some are going to stick, some are just going to be, job guys, and, some might get, to be pretty big for this company.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed him. He was cool. Nate, were you going to say something? Or was that you, Steve? I thought I heard somebody say something. All right, so Adam Page, Hangman Page, gets is participant number 1 in whenever the future AEW World Championship matches, which I believe, as far as I've heard, I think it's at Fight for the Fallen is where it's going to be. I thought it would be at All Out, but I don't know.
That's what I was thinking, too.
Yeah, I have a feeling that's going to change.
Unless they want to get a title on a guy quickly, so that way we at least have some direction for
All Out
future shows.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so after that, we had our second pre-show match of the night, which was a fun match. Kip Sabian takes on Sammy Guevara. Kip Sabian wins in about 10 minutes. I heard of Sammy Guevara. I got to be honest, I wasn't impressed. Kip Sabian, I was impressed, and I'd never heard of him. But I liked him in this match. I'm glad he won. I thought he was the better worker. What'd you think, Steve?
I thought, this reminded me of a WCW Nitro Cruiserweight match. I mean that as a compliment, kind of, because it's going to be forgettable by the end of this show. It was a good match, nothing spectacular, which it was a pre-show, so you really can't do anything spectacular since you don't want to take away from the bigger matches. I did think Sammy Guevara fell a little bit short just because he wasn't able to do a lot of his heel stuff.
Right.
He kind of stuck out his tongue a little bit, but he's a pretty good promo, like not in the same realm as an MJF, who we'll talk about more later. But yeah, it was just kind of a 10-minute, do a few spots. Guevara's shooting star press. It's kind of like an RVD type move where RVD used to do like the spinning leg kick with the guy on the guardrail, and he does a shooting star press instead. That's a pretty cool move. But yeah, Kip Sabian, I don't think I've ever seen before. Like, I've heard of the name, but I don't think I've ever seen him.
Nate, you ever heard of him?
I thought he did a pretty good job.
Nate, do you know him?
I did not. I'd never seen him wrestle until the show. And I agree. I think Steve hit the nail on the head in that it felt like a WCW Cruiserweight match. It also felt a bit like the X Division matches in the early days of TNA.
Right.
Where, we don't have a story for these guys, but we're going to put them out there for 9 to 10 minutes, get the crowd hyped up. And I think it was a good match in the sense that it got the crowd into it, but they didn't wear them out by going super crazy and doing so many crazy spots that, you set a standard that the rest of the show might not be able to live up to.
True. We had some backstage stuff and, guys walking around. And if you watch the Being Elite YouTube channel, their last clip the other day was behind the scenes walking around like StarCast and that kind of stuff. Then to wrap up the pre-show, out came your, I guess, board of directors, if you will, of AEW, Cody Rhodes, Brandy, the Bucks, and Kenny, Kenny just doesn't look like he fits in this bunch. It's like, hey Kenny, this is our pal. Our pal Kenny's going to come walk out with us. Like, he didn't seem like, some dude with tinfoil hair and fucking white pants or whatever the hell he was wearing. I don't know. He just seemed out of place with the rest of the guys. Cody looks like an executive. Anyway, they came out. They the first of what would be many ear-cringing WWE jabs. The place seats 12,000, so they decided to up it to 20,000. Har, har, har. like WWE's the only one that does that, but anyway. That's funny. That's fine. That's fine.
I actually thought that was pretty funny, too, because it's not like, WWE I think they just said professional wrestling, because New Japan has been known to do that, too.
Everybody does.
Substantially. And college football is, that's pretty much come out this year that sometimes as much as 20,000 people difference in reality.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, they wanted to throw their dig, and that wouldn't be the only one tonight. Now, the pre-show matches were just announced by Alex Marvez and Excalibur.
Well, you take the good, you take the bad.
You take them both, and there you have those two guys. Excalibur got a little better as the show progressed. But Alex Marvez is terrible. First of all, they didn't get any of those guys fucking blazers that fit. It's like me putting on, frickin' Josh Richards' fucking jacket. I mean, it was ridiculous. They all looked like disheveled. Excalibur looked, he kind of was getting comfortable. JR comes out at the end of the pre-show, and he's going to join the team. We'll get more into announcing as we progress. So then we get the actual open, and then our first match was a good one. It was a 6-man tag. It was SoCal Uncensored, so we had Daniels, Frankie K, and Scorpio Sky, who I like, taking on the Strong Hearts, Seema, T-Hawk, and El Lindemann. SoCal won. Fun match. Really fun match. I'm a SoCal mark. Obviously Daniels is a PTB alum, and I love Frankie K. I'm starting to get to like Scorpio Sky. As a matter of fact, Scorpio Sky and Frankie K had a great backstage clip on the Being the Elite show on YouTube where Scorpio Sky and Frankie K reenacted the scene from Rocky 3 where Apollo is giving Rocky the red, white, and blue tights, because they're actually red, white, blue tights that say Scorpio Sky. Is that the gimmick with him, that he pretends he's Apollo Creed? I don't know. Anyway, it was a fun little clip. I like SoCal in AEW. I think that they'll add a lot of maturity and a lot of experience, particularly if you're talking about building a tag division. I like them in the promotion, Nate.
Yeah, they're a really strong team with a strong gimmick and personality. I think that they're going to be one of the anchors of this tag team division, which is pretty stacked when you look at the tag teams on the roster. And like you, I am a huge fan of Daniels, have been for a long time. Kazarian's great as well. And then you got the young whippersnapper, the up-and-comer at 36, the baby of the bunch, in Scorpio Sky, who, like, if you haven't seen this dude over the years, like, not only is he good in the ring, but he's got more personality and character than I think other companies have allowed him to show. Mm-hmm. So I think they're going to be one of, they're not going to be the Young Bucks. They're not going to be like the headlining tag team. But, you talk all the time, Scotty, about glue guys in a promotion.
Yep.
I think these guys, as a trio, as,
maybe
Daniels separately, as a tag team, whatever combination you want to put them in, they're going to be part of the glue of this company.
What do you think, Steve?
I think Daniels will also be someone who starts working more backstage as he settles down. I mean, he's been, I think this is his 30th year, something like that. I might be exaggerating a couple years, but he has been around for so long, since the 90s. The sheer amount...
His debut was in 1993.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. So we're talking 26 now.
April
the sheer
of
amount of experience in this match is insane. I just looked up Shima's age, because Shima's been around since the late 90s as well. He's only 41.
Yeah.
And he was only the third oldest guy in this match. I actually can't believe he's that young. I mean, that means he started working when he was 19.
Wow.
So he was even around, both Daniels and Shima were around in the last days of WCW.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And T-Hawk I've seen a couple times. This is like the most smarkish problem I had with the commentary in this match.
Yep.
And this is just my own ridiculous schmarkishness. Like, they kept calling him the China contingent. They're from Japan. They've started this they split off from Dragon Gate. She was like one of the founders of Dragon Gate. They split off to start like a group in China to bring professional wrestling to China, because it's a billion plus population country, and like they've been there for less than a year. they're not Chinese. It's just like, it just bothered me. Like, you could
It
easily
could have
just
been
say,
worse though, Steve, because they were the representatives of Oriental Wrestling Entertainment, so they could have said the Oriental contingent, which would not have worked.
yes. Yeah,
Unless you were in
Coming out of
AWA.
Jim Ross's mouth.
Unless you were in AWA in 1986.
We're looking at the Oriental contingent, by God.
By God.
I did think it was a really fun opener, and it was a perfect placement for SCU because they can hop on the mic, do their chant, get the crowd excited, and perfect what you said, Nate, about an X Division match with the last bout. This is what they would kind of do in TNA with the X Division match. They put it on first. Mm-hmm. Like your secondary X Division guys put it on first, get the crowd totally hyped for the rest of the show.
And if this was WWE, Nate, then if they saw Scorpio Sky with Daniels and Kazarian, they would have said, SoCal just got lethal. So, anyway, great. I thought it was a good match. Yeah. Next up, we had the originally a three-way match, Dr. Britt Baker, Nyla Rose, and Kylie Ray. But then Brandy comes out trying to be her best Stephanie. And she decides she wants this match to be awesome. And the first thing I thought of was, oh my God, The Miz just... No, I didn't think that at all. The Miz in drag. No, I didn't think that at all.
Hell, Miz and Mrs.
The reincarnation of Mike.
Yes! The minute she said that, I knew it. I think we all kind of knew it. And out came Awesome Kong, which is so fucking great. Yeah. I don't think she's permanent, though. I think she was just a one-off to make that match look good. I don't think she's sticking around. Is she sticking around? I don't think she is.
I don't know. I mean, it was definitely a surprise. It was not TV setup.
But oh my God, I'm sorry. This is my first issue. We talk, AEW brass talk about not having egos and they don't want to be like WWE. I counted the number of times we had a camera shot of Brandy outside the ring during that match. 23. 23 times in that match. We had to get a camera still shot of Brandy outside the ring. All right, we get it. She's outside. We get it.
That's a good catch. I did not notice that, but yeah, that's something I really haven't heard of and hadn't thought about. So
they all don't want to be like the brain trust of WWE, yet Brandy pretty much did her best Stephanie impersonation by having to be on camera literally every 2.5 minutes or every 2.5 seconds. The match was 11:10 was your runtime. Britt Baker's definitely the face of the women's promotion. I know who Kylie Ray reminds you of, Steve. I don't know who JR reminds him of. Kylie Ray definitely is her best Bailey.
And she is open with that Bailey is part of the influence of the character.
Right. I like Britt Baker. I've never seen her before, but I know of her. Well, I saw her at All In, I guess. So, I don't know. I thought she was good. Any quick thoughts on this one, guys?
When we previewed the card, Scotty, to me it just makes sense that she would get the win because, she's got the whole dentist angle that you can sell to a general public.
Yes, she does. I agree. But I like Britt Baker. She's definitely going to be the face of the promotion in terms of the women's division. So, next up, the first really legit awesome match on the card. Best friends Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta took on DX. I'm sorry, only because they had neon on. Angelico, Frangelico? That's a great liqueur. And Jack Evans. 12:35. This was a fun match. This was the first match where I went, wow, that's not bad. I have a feeling, I'm telling you guys, I think we're going to have a great tag. The one thing I will say that I hope AEW does well, that WWE kind of shits off on, is a great tag division.
Yep.
And maybe this is something that the Revival and guys and teams like that could look at. Because, this match was really good, Steve.
Yeah. You had Angelico and Jack Evans. Well, Jack Evans is another guy who's been around forever, but kind of wore out his welcome at a lot of places in the United States, so he's been mainly working in Mexico. And he's just a great heel. Knows how to just talk trash while wrestling better than anybody.
I noticed that. Yep. Lost art.
Yeah, you saw both. So Angelico and Jack Evans, the last time we really saw him in America was in Lucha Underground. Yeah. Best friends have been everywhere the last couple of years. And Yeah, it's just a good babyface heel tag team match where it's not just like your typical indie crowd where they're cheering everyone like crazy. You know, there were clear heels here.
Yes.
And
Agreed.
even if there were really, fun, crazy moves, I liked it. I think I didn't like it as much as a lot of people as I've seen. Maybe it was just because by the end of the show, there was so much other stuff that I really liked that I would have picked higher than this. But it was still really, really good, which shows you the quality of the show in ring.
Yeah, I think one of the things that this match and some of the earlier matches kind of highlight is they've done a really good job at kind of picking people in their primes. You know, when you've got somebody like I love Chuck Taylor, and I'd like to do for a long time. You know, he's, I want to say 32, 33. You talk about Jack Evans, who's a sneaky old 37. You've got people that have been around, so they know what to do in the ring, but they haven't been so overexposed that it's hard to get excited about them. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not, talking, to the WWE comparison, it's not the Dolph Ziggler problem where you're kind of burnt out on a guy. Like, a lot of these people still feel fresh, and this was a heck of a match. And like you were saying, Scotty, the tag division, when you got SCU and Best Friends and Evans and Angelico and the Lucha Brothers, the Bucks, like, the tag team division is stacked. You can main event shows with your tag teams, which is something that we really have not seen for a while. And it's something, particularly back in the Crockett days and the early days of WCW, tag teams were a big part of that promotion. So I like that that's something that it seems like AEW is keying on. I really enjoyed this match. I loved everything about it except for the post-match.
Yes, we're going to get to that now. So the lights go out, freaking ECW style, and in the ring are two guys I've never seen before. No clue who these guys were.
Here's my problem with that part, because I did know who they are, and I'm not trying to be all holier than thou. They're the Super Smash Brothers out of Toronto. The problem that I had was that poor Excalibur got stuck because they weren't supposed to know who they were, yet Excalibur has called a bunch of their matches when they were at PWG back in the day. They haven't been in the United States that much because I think they had like visa problems or something like that, or they weren't allowed in the country. So here is it was like one of those things like the Tough Enough girl who showed up on TNA that one time.
Yes.
We all know who that is. No, we don't.
That's Paulina.
Yes, Paulina. The Super Smash Brothers are Paulina.
Oh, wow.
They're great wrestlers, but you don't know who they are because they've only been in, say, PWG 6 years ago. And the crowd here are smart, but they're all not 45-year-olds that are sitting around watching every single bit of wrestling. It's more of hey, we know the mainstream guys. We know some of your Young Bucks and stuff like that, maybe some of the Japan guys, but we're not going to know every single person on this card. And to make us think that, these are these big stars, it was silence. And then poor Excalibur looking like a schmuck saying, basically, I kind of know who they are, but I can't really say who they are.
Yeah, and I don't know, somebody had said online that maybe they can't call them that because of a Nintendo thing. But I think, if you're going to do that, I wouldn't have done it. I would have just let the match end as it did. But if you're going to do that, your announcers have to let you know who these people are. And if you can't say Super Smash Brothers, then pick names. Come up with names before the show. Do you know who that is, JR? That's Ricky and Bobby. That's Shake and Bake. That's
Shake and Bake.
That's Laurel and Stan, not the real Hardy Boys. Come up with a name that you can give information. That was one of the few, because I liked Excalibur. I thought Excalibur did a really good job on this show. I've heard him do commentary, here and there, but I thought he did a good job on the show. Him and JR particularly worked well. I could have done without Marvez, but I thought that was one of the times where they dropped the ball, where you've got an audience that some of them might know who these guys are, Steve, if they're really, really hardcore. But most of your audience, particularly the audience watching at home, have no idea who these guys are and why we should care.
Exactly. I agree. And then all these minions are like out of shape, like flabby humps. What were they, working at the car wash across the street? I mean, oh my God.
It reminded me about the Chris Farley's Patrick Swayze.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Oh, God. All right, so they got to do a better job of that. Next up, we had the 6-woman tag. Hikaru Shida, Riho Abe, and Ryu Mizunami defeated Aja Kong, who looked exactly the same. Yuka Sakazaki, and Emi Sakura in 13-10. Fun match. A little messy. Aja Kong seemed to be in the ring like 80% of the time. The one female wrestler I liked, I think it was Sakazaki, had the all white outfit on. She looked like an ambulance driver, or she looked dressed like Evel Knievel or whatever. I kind of liked her. Otherwise, I mean, this match was fine. This is like the one match where I don't think anybody literally knew who any of them were except Aja Kong.
Yeah. Yep. Same with you. Same with me.
Yeah, it was fine, right? Not much to say here. Decent enough match.
I mean, this was a showcase for Aja, but also a way of getting the younger team, because I believe most of the younger talent were opposing her,
right,
on the other side of the ring. So it was a way to get the younger girls over, but you still, like you said, Aja was in there the bulk of the match, and as she should have been, because she was the star.
Right, exactly. So I'm sure they'll build on. I'm sorry, Steve. Go ahead.
I just loved this match.
It was fun. It was fun. A little sloppy, but fun.
It was a little sloppy, but it was so much fun to see Aja Kong, who, like you said, like her body build, it just like is so unique. Like it's just like a fire hydrant. It's just massive, strong. Like I've never seen a person, male, female, or otherwise, that looks like that. And it's like so cool to see her still, like you said, in the exact same shape as 20-something years ago.
Yeah.
But I had not seen any of these other women before. I thought the interactions between Aja and poor Riho, who probably weighs 100 pounds, and Aja just destroyed her so many times. It was just such a crazy visual. I didn't know that. I think was it Mizunami? Had real short colored hair on the one side, so that was like Kenny Omega's partner when he would do intergender matches. So like this was Kenny's part of booking this on the card. Like Justin and Chad, a dual cross promotion on Wrestle Warzone, they just had recently gone through the 6-woman tags and the tag matches that were in late '95 Nitro, and on the World War III '95 pay-per-view, and it had like Akira Hokuto, and I'm forgetting who the other. Was it Bull Nakano was in there? This reminded me of that. It was just a strange coincidence that I had to watch those at the same time of this. And it did, for the second time of the night, remind me of kind of Nitro, where you'd have like the Sammy Guevara match, and this where you'd have some sort of international flavor type matchup. And I really enjoyed this part of the show where you had so many different styles of wrestling all wrapped up in one. And we'll see it again with this next match coming up here, which you go from a Joshi 6-woman tag to like the most old school of old school blood feuds in the course of a few minutes.
Yep. I want to get into that one because these last 3 matches obviously kind of carried the card. Cody and Dustin, my favorite match of the night.
Oh, sure, yeah.
No doubt about it. 22-30. Dustin Rhodes almost did the Vince at Vengeance 03 against Zach Gowen when he sliced a piece of brain matter off and just let it all fall out of his ears. A match with backstory and emotion and storytelling. I think everyone knew everyone was going to make it their favorite match of the night, just based on the history between the two. Yeah, it's going to be. I like where this is going, and then they talk after the match, of course, and they're going to tag team against the Bucks at that Fighter Fest at the end of the month, end of June. We can't say anything about the blood because, obviously they were planning on. I'm sure Dustin was planning on gigging, but I don't think he meant to gig that deep. Good grief. Having said that, taking away the that part of it, what did you think of the match overall, Steve? And did it legitimize Cody a little bit as a winner? Yes, he won the NWA belt at All In, but we've always talked about, Cody is the face of this promotion, yet he's definitely not the ultimate talent of this promotion. Did he kind of justify himself as a legit guy with this match?
You know what? I am going to take the alternative viewpoint of what I believe most people are going to say, and I'm going to say no. And here's the reason why. Mm-hmm. These two matches that Cody has gotten just great credit for with being involved in AEW, and let's just include All In under that as umbrella as well. Mm-hmm. The match with Nick Aldis and this match. Both of those matches had a ridiculous amount of story to set it up.
Right.
Like, there was a lot done to build up that Nick Aldis match. You had the entire promotion of NWA. You had some Ring of Honor. You had their, kind of own AEW. They had an entire video series. It was all this pomp and circumstance. You had like DDP involved, and you had a lot of bells and whistles there. And this you had not as much. There was only a couple big promos to build this up, but you have the built-in story already there with Cody and Dustin. It's this huge story building up to the end of the match where they harken back to the Dustin promo of "Honey, my son," and have the big hug. So my question is, what's going to happen when you have a weekly television show or, quarterly pay-per-views, and you don't have that build-up? And it's just going to be, Cody and Dustin versus the Young Bucks in, a month? 2 months?
A month.
That's no story. There's no story there besides Cody and Dustin. Dustin's not going to, bust his face open and have 8 stitches. You're not going to have that time to build some sort of massive story with that. So what's going to happen then? Is it just going to be, back to Mr. 2.5 stars? Copyright Kenny Omega there? Or I think I'm going to have to see more of this stuff and not like some sort of once-a-year massive storyline-based, blowout-type match. It's going to have to be a little more consistent.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Nate?
I can see where Steve's coming from, but I think given the track record of what we've seen Cody do, even if you look at some of his Impact stuff, like it didn't really hit because it was within the constraints of Impact Wrestling, mm-hmm. but he was trying to tell some different stories. And I think that's Cody's biggest strength right now. He's not going to be the guy that's going to give you the 6-star match like a Kenny Omega. He's not going to be the guy that's going to pull out a bunch of crazy moves like the Young Bucks. He's not even going to be the guy that can kind of be the jack of all trades like a Chris Jericho. But what Cody can do, and I think his biggest strength, is being able to tell these stories. And so once AEW gets to TV, I think Cody's not a guy you're going to see wrestling week in and week out because that's not where his strength is. I think Cody's a guy that you're going to plan long-term feuds around and maybe pay off a feud every month or every 2 months now that you've had a chance to tell these stories. And so I think, you asked the question, did Cody kind of legitimize himself? I think he has. I don't know how much he needed to, but to whatever extent I think people had questions, I think those questions were answered. Because before this match, I heard a lot of people like, this is going to, brother feuds never pan out. We didn't care about these guys when they're in the WWE. Why are we going to care about them in this setting, in this context? And I think Cody showed you with his promo and then, the post-match stuff. I think he has a good sense of who his character is within the, the show, quote unquote, of AEW. But I also think he knows what works and what doesn't work for this audience, for this fan base. And I don't think Cody's smart enough not to put himself in a position where he turns into a Jeff Jarrett or he turns into, a Triple H during, Triple H's reign of terror, quote unquote, where he's all over the show. He's not going to be Diddy back in '93 where he's all in the video, all on the track. He's going to be smart about, I think, where he positions himself and how his feuds come off. And this match, I think, was an example of that. It was my favorite match on the show. And I think that's one of the strengths of AEW is that they have diversity in terms of we can have this crazy, old school NWA style blood feud, but we can also have the Lucha Brothers and the Young Bucks. We can also have a Joshi 6-woman match. We can give you a bunch of different things, and you might not like this, but we've got something on the buffet that you're going to dig.
I agree, and I think the match was one of the few matches that had a ton of that had backstory without even really building it. It was like a historical backstory.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, they really only, like Steve was saying, they really only built this up through what, 2 episodes of being the Elite?
Yeah. It was a lot of fun, and I'm sure that match at Fyter Fest will be pretty good anyway. Speaking of the Bucks, they were defending. It was our one title match of the evening. It wasn't even for this promotion because we don't have AEW tag belts yet. The AAA tag team titles on the line as the Bucks took on the Lucha Brothers. Another highly anticipated match. A lot of people were shocked that the Bucks retained. Believe it or not, I was one of the few that didn't. And of course, the few, there were a few people that I saw on Twitter and people I had talked to saying, good show, but what was with all the nepotism? Cody had to win and the Bucks had to win, and well, not everybody won as we talk about next. But my personal opinion is I can't see the titles change, even though it would have been the Lucha Brothers winning. I can't see them changing anywhere but in AAA. So I think they will have a match down the line, and I think the Bucks will drop the straps to them down there in AAA territory. That's just my opinion. And but the match itself was fantastic. A little sloppy at moments, but really good. And again, I think it highlights what could be a tremendous tag division in AEW, Steve.
Absolutely. Like, this was going back to my excitement over having different matches, do different things. This was like your huge spot fest of the evening where, why in the pre-show you couldn't have Sammy and Kip do all of their stuff because they were going to bring out all the greatest hits for, over 20 minutes in this one. I was also a little surprised. I was a little surprised. You said you weren't. I was surprised that the Lucha Brothers didn't win. I was surprised that they seemed to be more over with the crowd than the Bucks were. There were a lot more Lucha Brothers chants. It was a lot louder for them, at least from what I saw, which kind of made me happy because I'm a huge fan of Pentagon and especially Phoenix. It's just another really fun match. I think people will judge it based on how much they like that kind of style. If you are a fan of a lot of the flips and flops, well, this is going to be one of your favorite matches. I would say for me, it's probably like my second favorite of the night, but it's really just because I'm a huge Pentagon and Phoenix fan.
Yeah, no, the match was fantastic, and but I was one of the few people who knew that the Bucks were going to win because I think Pentagon and Phoenix will win the titles on AAA turf. I think the Bucks will go down there and drop them there.
I just don't know what Pentagon and Phoenix's status will be.
Yeah, I don't either. That's definitely a question mark.
Are they still going in Impact?
That's a good question. I don't know. What do you think, Nate?
Yeah, right now they're in All Elite. They're in MLW, AAA, Impact. Like, they're on Godfather status. Like they can do it. They got carte blanche in the wrestling world because I think everybody wants to work with these guys because, no shade to the Young Bucks. I think they're the best tag team in the world. The Lucha Brothers. And I'm not normally somebody that is a fan. Like I respect what the Bucks do, but I'm not, a super huge fan of their in-ring style. But for whatever reason, when you put them with a team like the Lucha Brothers, who can do everything the Bucks do, but also I think bring some more of that, hard-hitting, particularly Pentagon, some of that Smash Mouth style, along with the flips, it just works. And Phoenix is a dude that if this were 20 years ago, you'd swear Rey Mysterio was reincarnated. And had Rey Mysterio travel back in time, and he's wrestling himself. Because Phoenix is somebody who, if you've only seen him on Impact, or if you've only seen him in MLW, like this guy has the potential to be, the best kind of high flyer in the world. I'm really high on Phoenix. I don't even think he's 30 yet. So it's like the sky is the limit for that dude, literally. But this was a good match. I was a bit surprised that the Bucks won, but your rationale makes a lot of sense, Scotty. And yeah, man, if they find a way to continue this working relationship with the Lucha Brothers, that's just going to be. And there's so many different combinations with tag teams on this roster, and each match, like whatever combination, you can throw all the tag teams in a bowl and just pick out 2 random names. And it's going to be a great match. So this was my second favorite match of the card, much like Steve. And, yeah, like the last hour of this show, last hour and a half of the show maybe, really was kicking on all cylinders for me.
It definitely got going. I felt like the middle of the show was a little long. By the way, we need to, before we continue with that, let's backtrack a bit because I forgot that in between the Cody and the Bucks match, while they were cleaning up, while they were going to replace the blood-soaked canvas, we did get the debut of a pretty sweet-looking AEW championship belt.
Yep.
By Bret the Hitman Hart.
Yes.
My God, where did that come from? Adam Page was coming out to look at it since he's one half of the first title match, and then out came Mr. Friedman to give his 2 cents because he might be a big heel down the line. And threw some shade his way. Then he got beat up by, he got chased off by Jungle Boy and a couple of the other baby faces. Segment was a little long. Might have been even unnecessary. Probably took up too much time that they didn't need to take up. But I was fine with it. There's all rumors now that Vince is pissed because Natalya should have told him. I don't even think Natalya knew. I think Bret probably did it on his own and probably didn't tell anybody anything because Bret's very kayfabe business-like, and I'm sure he probably thought that it's almost like accessory to after the fact kind of thing, where if you tell Natalya now she knows, and now she could be,
Yeah.
So I have a feeling she had no idea. Having said that, other than Vince, I don't think anybody gave a fuck, to be honest with you. But anyway. So good segment there. What'd you think? Do you feel like Hangman Page is a star in the making, Nate?
He's certainly somebody that they think is a star in the making. I like him. I'm not in love with him yet. And I do think that his star was kind of hurt a little bit because of the dealings with Pac. Because I think that match would have been fantastic in front of that audience. And he would have came across as a legitimate big star. But he is certainly somebody that, particularly once we get to the TV show, he is somebody that I think will be a featured player. And you could do a lot worse than having him in the title hunt.
What do you think, Steve? What are your thoughts on Hangman Page?
I think they want to make their own stars. I think that's part of what their hope is, and not just, okay, Kenny, here's the title. All right, Young Bucks, here's the tag title. All right, Cody, here's the title. And Adam Page, and I remember Kevin Kelly talking about this way back when he first started, that he was a blue chipper. I mean, the kid was like 20, and he was wearing a John Deere hat and John Deere colored wrestling pants, and from West Virginia. And I think he's someone they have on the fast track now after, kind of being in Ring of Honor and He got over huge in Japan last year with the Japanese crowd, like a mini Stan Hansen almost. So I don't know how it will play off. He's got decent wrestling skills. He's got decent charisma. He's got a great look. I mean, guy's made for TV. Super handsome dude. Super muscular. We'll see. I think it's nice that they're just not going for the obvious right away. And then you are instantly upgraded by being placed in a match with the winner of the next match.
All right, so we get to the main event. Oh, you know what? I might as well mention it because everyone's going to break my fucking balls that I don't mention it, so I'm going to mention it.
I was wondering when you were going to get to this.
Of course, I'm talking about what happened pre-match before Cody and Dustin, when Brandy grabbed the sledgehammer, gave it to Cody. Cody walked up and smashed that fucking third-grade art project that was sitting on the stage, a styrofoam square with a bunch of sticks sticking out of it. I love being kayfabe. It was whatever. That's fine. Me personally, I could care less. Doesn't bother me. Having said that, though, a lot of people on Twitter, and I've seen even a lot of people on Facebook, and even my friend's YouTube channel said, all right, they got their digs in, move on now. If you're going to spend the next 5 months before the TV deal starts throwing jabs at them, by the time the TV deal starts, everybody's going to be like aggravated and you know, irritated that all they've done is act like children. I would focus on Fyter Fest, Fight for the Fallen, anything that starts with an F, and get your and build your roster and stop worrying about. All right, you got your digs in, you got your ha ha ha, and now it's time to move on. So that's fine. I had no issue with it. At first, I'm like, what the fuck is that doing there? And then I realized, I'm like, wait a minute, is he going to sit in it? Their skulls were all crooked, fucking, you know, pipe cleaners and whatever the hell it was. And but then when Brandy pulled the sledge out, I go, oh, Jesus, really? What are you guys, 9? Oh, my God. Get a grip. But
That's one of the bigger explosions. That was the only thing that disappointed me.
Well, they don't have the money. Tony Khan's like, I ain't buying explosives. You out of your mind? I'm not paying insurance to MGM. Anyway, I got a chuckle out of it, but honestly, it's whatever. It is what it is. All right, main event. Chris Jericho defeats Kenny Omega, and it'll be Chris Jericho versus Hangman Page for the the inaugural AEW World Championship match. Your total time, 27 minutes. You guys are going to be pretty shocked at me saying this maybe, but I had said when I saw the first Kenny Jericho match at Dominion last year, I guess, not this past year, the year before, that I thought JR kind of ruined it for me because I listened to him and Josh doing it. I wish I'd listened to Kevin and Callis because I thought they kind of got dummied down, and I felt like I was watching a Raw 2000 hardcore match. So I was pumped tonight, even though JR was doing commentary. I said to myself, I'm going to keep an open mind and see. And I got to be honest, the match was good. I don't think they really have great chemistry, to be honest. I think it's okay, but it's not like melt the building down. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it's just me. What do you think, Nate? I don't know.
I think it was solid. It was good. It was a credible main event. It wasn't the best match on the show, though. Not by a long shot.
Nope.
And I think part of that might have been the chemistry thing you talk about, but I think a bigger part was, for me particularly, Steve, I don't know how you felt about it, was Jericho trying to get the new finish over, and it just didn't work for me.
It didn't for me either because if you're not watching the Being the Elite, or which I don't, I just don't have that kind of time to move into that. Mm-hmm. If you're just in the live crowd or you're watching at home for the first time, you're going to have no idea what that is. And, you know, they gave a little bit of reference to it on commentary.
Right.
They showed that little cute training video. Like, I was waiting for the best around to start playing like in Karate Kid.
You're the best around. Nothing's going to ever take. I love that song. Put him in a body bag, Johnny! Love it. Oh, I love that song.
So, yeah, that needed to be built up a little bit more. I do agree with that, Nate. And when you have a 5-hour show with some amazing matches, it's gonna, it might drag unless you're taking it up another notch. I am a huge Omega fan. I'm a huge Jericho fan. That being said, this was my 4th favorite match of the night. Yeah, let's just let that settle in, podcast.
I mean, you could see that as a negative, but you could also say, hey, we had Kenny and Jericho in the main event, and it wasn't even the best match on the show. That's how deep this show was.
Yeah, and it wasn't a bad match. Yeah, that is important to say. It wasn't a bad match by any stretch of the imagination. Like maybe like a 3.5 star, 3 3/4 stars. Like it was still, and then when you add in like the post-match promo by Jericho, which I really, really liked, and then the aftermath, it wasn't just the match that was important. It was the whole package.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. And Jericho wins, and he cuts a weird promo. And, he's talking about ripping the crowd and everything. And eventually, another thing we kind of saw coming through the crowd, does indeed come, John Dean Ambroxley. He's the crowd. He hits Dirty Deeds on Jericho. He Dirty Deeds, was it Earl? Or was it just whoever the ref was?
I was, God, why can't I think of his name? Paul Turner.
Yes. And then he attacks Kenny, and he really lays into Kenny and ends up Dirty Deedsing him on the stack of chips, and then throws him, and then in WWE style, but we're not WWE, threw him off the chips and onto a platform thing, and that ended the show. Good debut, Nate?
I think so. I was somebody who was really cold on Dean Ambrose, the last year, maybe even longer in the WWE, because he was either stuck in feuds that I didn't care about, or they had watered his character down so much that it just didn't click. And, not to plug a competing show, but if you listen to the latest edition of the Jericho show with John Moxley, he speaks to a lot of the frustrations that he was going through last year or so. So, I everybody else was excited about him. I'm like, I don't really care. But then giving him that big spot and having him take out Jericho, who I believe is probably going to be their inaugural champion. At least that's what I would do, because I think having Hangman chase him makes for a better story to kind of build him up as a new star. He takes out Omega, and he is the last image you see as we go to black. I think, he's already a main player. And then, it was announced afterwards he's going to be wrestling in New Japan against Juice Robinson. And so, yeah, he seems like he's got a new lease on life. He's got a fresh coat of paint. And I wouldn't make him, the central focus of AEW, but he's certainly one of the top players, and he's certainly got a lot of buzz coming out of Double or Nothing.
Yeah. No, he definitely does, but he's a big name for the roster right now. And we'll see what happens going forward. I'm glad that he did sign with New Japan, because, AEW doesn't work every day, so these guys got to stay fresh since they only wrestle once every 4 weeks. What were your thoughts on how they got him started, Steve?
Better than anticipated. I'm not a big Ambrose Moxley fan either, and I felt like he was going to debut at some point, and some people thought it was going to be the Battle Royal, but no, you're going to do that in a bigger program. And they did make it a focal point. They ended the show with like the big, you want that big picture of the two of them on top of those poker chips. They got it. I like that it was just kick Omega 2, get him in the Dirty Deeds, and then end the show. It's like, okay, they've already started, 3 programs now. Page Jericho, Omega, Moxley, Bucks, and the Rhodes. So you already got 3 programs that have come out of this show up top. So there's clearly thoughts going behind where they're going, and there's not going to be an old man hopefully changing the day of the next show what's going to happen.
Yeah, no, exactly. All right. I enjoyed the show a lot. It was a good first step. There were some hiccups. I thought the set looked nice. Production looked lean. The announcing needs some work. It was not great. And there was a lot more fluff than there needed to be. Maybe they needed to justify the $50. But it was fine. I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. My friend kind of I don't know, I got to talk to him about, I haven't seen him. He's on vacation this week, but my friend Mike that I always mention that does he said when they did their reaction show of it, they said it was better. He went to TakeOver New York. I won't say Brooklyn. TakeOver New York, WrestleMania, and Money in the Bank. And because he lives in Connecticut, nearby. He lives, I don't know, about an hour away from me. And he said that last night's show, or that Double or Nothing, was better than all three of them. I was it better than Money in the Bank? Money in the Bank was good. People are just pissed off because of the ending. We won't get into that tonight. Was it better than WrestleMania? Again, I think people are judging the ending as being indicative of the whole show. But you could argue that they were about equal. Was it better than TakeOver New York? No, absolutely not. No way. Was it better than the Rumble? I don't know. But again, I think what we need to stop doing, and this is just me, AEW got their jabs in, and, everybody quoted after Vince. I think Dustin said Vince better, quote, watch his ass and all this stuff. That's fine, whatever. That's great. But AEW now needs to think about the other promotions they can poach. You don't want to make, if the cons, I understand an alternative, but you don't want to make deals with Ring of Honor. You want to take Ring of Honor's roster. Cherry pick who's left there. Try and get Marty Scurll. Try and get those guys. Don't be nice to them. No, you're just going to throw jabs at WWE and try and poach their talent.
Yeah, I think they're going to start going their own way. And remember, like, Triple H made those comments at the Hall of Fame, too. It's like, come on, we don't need the Nacho Man and the Huckster and all that. Yes. Like, I'm...
Oh, so you're saying we're going to get Billionaire Tony skits?
Yeah. It just... I look at the little tongue-in-cheek, like, poke once in a while. I did really think the attendance thing was funny, and because it was just making fun of wrestling in general. But yeah, the throne thing is like, okay, we get it. It's could not be more obvious what you're doing. And so yeah, let's move on. Marty Scurll's going to be there. His contract, I believe, just has another year on it with Ring of Honor, and he'll be there as soon as it's done. Just be your own company, establish your own people. I do like what they've done with their roster so far. It's a great combination of their, being the elite guys. You have your seasoned veterans, and then you got like your kind of up and coming indie people. Mm-hmm. You got a bunch of people that even kind of more hardcore fans like myself don't know. I don't know who Private Party is. I didn't know a lot of those people, a good half that were in that battle royal. And I, have my finger somewhat on the pulse. Like I didn't know Nyla Rose. Didn't know any of the Joshi people. So it's like, then you can bring in different international stars, and that is an alternative. It will speak for itself, especially once it gets on television. Right now, you're trying to build the buzz, bring new people in, bring lapsed fans in, and bring in the hardcores who are going to watch literally everything.
Right.
And I think if you're measuring it based on that, they knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
This far exceeded my expectations of this show. Far exceeded with what they did. I was waiting for a million production mistakes, because before they had at least Sinclair doing it. And, they brought in whom I'm assuming are people from TNA to help. And it did have a little bit of, as I mentioned before, like Nitro WCW vibe at times, just the way it was shot on the ring. I don't know if anyone else noticed that, or I was just like Johnny Sorrow levels of fake high. But I was just drinking soda, everyone. But yeah, there's a little bit of WCW feel to the way it just looked to me. And if they are their own company and present themselves as an alternative, not screw WWE, even though there are those group of fans who love that part of it, it's gonna do well. It's not going to be $1 billion company. It's not going to beat Raw and SmackDown's ratings. Maybe it will be better than TNA's ratings at some, like they're at their peak. But we'll see. As long as they have a good wrestling product that is enjoyable and fun like this, that's what I care about.
Right.
And please don't make every monthly pay-per-view show $50.
I don't think that's going to happen. I think Cody made that point clear in the post. I think they just wanted to make it big, and I think they wanted something big for their inaugural show. Besides that, if you go to Bleacher Report Live and you go to the AEW tab, Fighter Fest and Fight for the Fallen are on there. There's no prices on them.
Yeah.
But they're there. So, but even though Cody said they won't do monthly previews, AEW's in a weird spot right now because they just they can't do anything really excessive until they get to TV. That's where the proof is in the pudding. Everybody wants to make fun of WWE's creative malaise right now, which is what they have. I mean, we're not denying it, but until AEW starts doing TV, let's not put the cart before the horse, is what I'm saying.
I would pay $10 or $15 for these next two shows.
Yeah, me too. 20 tops.
Yeah.
I was gonna say I'm thinking probably 20, maybe 25, because I think they've got to strike a balance between making it affordable, but they also know this audience is probably going to pay whatever you put, and so they want to strike that balance between making a profit but also not burning out their fan base too soon.
Yeah, I agree. So the next big show coming up, Fighter Fest. I think they're making fun of, or Fire Fest, whatever. Yeah. They're making fun of, maybe I don't know if they're wrestling in hurricane tents or whatever.
Oh, if they could get Ja Rule on that show, that'd be amazing.
Or maybe they'll have that the asshole guy, the convict guy, be the ring announcer. That's taking place June 29th at the Ocean Center in Daytona Beach, Florida. 4 matches are on the card right now. G. Bailey, I don't know who G. Bailey is, taking on Michael Nakazawa in a hardcore match. Wow, because that wasn't started from other promotions. Cody takes on Darby Allin.
Okay.
A 6-man tag. The Elite takes on the Lucha Brothers in a 6-man. So it's Kenny and the Bucks against Pentagon, Ray Phoenix, and a third person. Very interesting that I'm assuming Pentagon and Ray Phoenix are the baby faces, but Kenny's a baby face with the Bucks. I don't know.
No, you can have just 2 straight up baby face
probably.
teams, I guess.
I think they'll kind of leave all that except for somebody like a Code, they'll leave all that gray until they get to TV.
Yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right. And then John Dean Ambroxley will make his AEW debut against Joey Janela.
That could be a show stealer.
It could be.
Yeah, and I think you might not want to have a hardcore match with Nakazawa because those two can. If you've seen Moxley stuff before WWE, that could get ugly real quick.
Yeah, I agree. So there you go. Yeah, so that's
good show. I think real quick, I think going into the show, you could make the argument that they were already the number 2 promotion in America just based off of the Turner deal. I think Double or Nothing solidified that spot.
Mm-hmm.
ROH can't hang with this. Impact can't hang with this. Anybody else, MLW, even though MLW's been doing some good TV, they're not in a position to hang with what AEW is doing right now. And so, yeah, I thought it was a good show. I put it on the level, maybe slightly better, maybe this is somewhere around All In, because I really enjoyed All In, and on that show you had the benefit of the ROH and New Japan people too. WrestleMania, I think, had a better moment. Still to this day, nothing for me has trumped the Kofi moment in WrestleMania, and I don't know if anything will this year. But as an overall show, I think I like this better, just because there was more variety. I think they got to stay away from the trap of taking too many shots at the WWE. You know, every once in a while, it's cute, it's funny, you throw red meat to your base, but you don't want that to become the overall tone of your show. In terms of production, there were a couple missed camera shots. There were some music snafus, but I think that's just because you had a crew here that probably is either inexperienced at doing wrestling, or you're just kind of bringing this group of people together for the first time. And it still was better than a lot of those ROH shows when they first came out. As far as the commentary goes, I think JR, this is the best I've heard JR in a while, because I thought agree. His New Japan stuff with Barnett really was not hitting. And I think being here with people like a Cody and a Dustin that he knows and respects, but also having somebody like Excalibur to kind of give him some energy, I think those two work really well. Alex Marvez, God bless him, but he doesn't need to be at the table. I don't think he added anything. And, in fact, when they were introducing All Out Steve, like, I think he's like, what's the day, guys? Like, you're supposed to know what the damn day is.
It was your only job. It seemed to be like plugging social media and talking about the dates.
Job, and you missed it. So yeah, he can be their Todd Pettengill. Just stick him in a studio somewhere and have him give updates during the commercial break when they get to TV. But no, I thought it was a good show. I do think some folks need to kind of pump the brakes when they do. This is the greatest thing ever. This is a revolution. But I do think it's an alternative. It's a breath of fresh air that wrestling definitely needs. And, you know, if the WWE is not your cup of tea, instead of complaining about it, now you've got something that might be more. And I think at the end of the day, fans win. The performers win because they have more options in terms of making a livelihood. And I think the industry wins. So it's a good thing all around.
Yes, I agree. And we'll talk more about it as we move ahead. And actually, what's fun, one thing I'll give AEW credit for, since this is really their only shows, is they've already got matches set for this show after that, which is, of course, Fight for the Fallen on July 13th. Your matches so far, Brandy Rhodes, wow, she's wrestling, stunned, taking on Allie. Who the hell's Allie?
Yeah, they did build that up during the women's match.
Okay.
Because they had
she was on commentary, that's right.
She was the girl on commentary.
She's from Impact.
Okay. Yeah. Kenny Omega's taking on, what did you call him? Shima?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Shima. And then the match that Cody talked about at Double or Nothing, he and his brother take on the Bucks randomly, but that's okay.
And then the post match was really cool too. You talked about it, Scotty, but the almost UFC like scrum after the show, I thought that was pretty neat. Like, it's something that we don't see in wrestling, and I don't know if they'll continue to do it once they get television. But I thought for this event, it was really cool. And you know, you got to get a little bit of insight in terms of what Cody was thinking, you know, going into the show.
Yeah, no, definitely. And they've done a good job. They've done a good job, getting themselves a foundation, considering that really the only place you can watch them is on YouTube. And that's going to, thank God for the TV deal, because that would have gotten old really quick.
Yeah.
All right, great.
And it's a great TV deal. Like, I think that's something
people
still don't realize the magnitude of. Like, this is not Impact on Destination America. This is a legitimate cable channel.
Yep.
That didn't just spring up overnight.
Right.
So, you know, even if the ratings aren't great, just by virtue of being like reruns of Rizzoli and Isles and Leverage double Impact's numbers. So they'll be good in terms of a rating standpoint out of the gate.
That's funny. Great first segment. Great. I'm glad we got to talk a little Double or Nothing. And we'll talk more AEW. We were going to have Brandon on tonight, our man Brandon Howard, but I'm going to hold off because we've already well past the end of the first quarter. We'll have him on when the second quarter ends, after the Saudi Arabia show that he's so looking forward to, and get into some of the other pay-per-view stuff. Of course, that is the next pay-per-view, which is next Friday in a place that shall not be named.
It's an Agrabah, Scotty.
Agrabah! Exactly. When we return, we're going to go to another promotion that was getting off its feet. We're going to go to October of 2002 for our next installment of the TNA Classic pay-per-view recap. Brother Nate and Brother Steve. I am Brother Scott. Back to the Asylum after the break.
I haven't been that far gone from the Asylum this week. It's really only been a couple hours.
Because?
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Place to Be Nations, JT Rosero and Chad Campbell here. We want to let you know that we have over 24 podcasts available on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and PlaceToBeNation.com. We now offer them to you on 2 great feeds. On the Place to Be Nation Wrestling feed, we dive into topics running the gamut from today's WWE to the glory days of yesteryear and the ins and outs of the territory days. In addition to our full-length shows, we also deliver to you special pod blasts on topics old and new.
The Place to Be Nation Pop feed is a veritable treasure trove of great content. Offer tremendous shows covering the land of movies, television, life, comics, and sports, brought to you by the most knowledgeable and insightful folks in the podcast world.
You can find all of these current shows, plus archives of our previous podcasts over the past 8 years as well, by subscribing to our feeds on iTunes. And while there, be sure to rate and leave feedback as well. All of these shows, plus others available at PlaceToBeNation.com, where we cover pro wrestling, sports, movies, comics, plus in-depth stretch projects and more. Be sure to support our site by using www.PlaceToBeNation.com/Amazon while doing your online shopping. And be sure to join us at our forum at Bigelow34.proboards.com for all sorts of wrestling, sports, and pop culture discussion each and every day, where you can make your voice heard. We also want to thank our friends at Bonehead's Wing Bar, ProWrestlingOnly.com, and TheHistoryOfWrestling.com. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr as well. PlaceToBeNation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
We are back on Place to Be Nation's main event, episode number 127. Just want to give a good shout out to 3-time NCAA national champion Eddie Lacy.
Ah, yes.
Wherever you are, sir, probably a old country buffet. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Cracker Barrel.
Yes, thank you, listeners. Thank you. I just wanted to say that the main event is the best wrestling podcast in the whole world. And if you think this is fake, subscribe to Place to Be Nation or you're going to get your ass kicked. That's going to come into focus in a little bit, folks. But speaking of subscribe, while you are on the internet, you can subscribe to the Kings of Sport Patreon as well. Patreon.com/Kings of Sport, where you'll find a lot of great content from myself and Brother Marcus Vanderberg. We recently passed episode number 250 for the show. And you can check out the audio clips. You can check out the video clips. A couple different shows we have, political shows. And, it's just a lot of interesting content there. Luke Cage, the Always Forward podcast, the complete archives of that is on the Kings of Sport Patreon as well. So check it out, patreon.com/the Kings of Sport. And that's it for my shilling. I'm like Chris Rock. I'm going to come in here, say what I got to say, and leave. So, Scotty, you got anything you want to promote for the people?
Of course I do. And I am a sponsor of Patreon, and they are unbelievably awesome, and I've listened to a good hunk of their stuff, and it's absolutely tremendous. So definitely check it out. Of course, we have to let you know about the two our great feeds. We want to keep things tight tonight, so I won't go deep into the pop feed, but the PTBN pop feed always has awesome stuff. Dadcast is back. Year in Pop, actually myself, Mr. Atherton, Mr. D'Amato, and the Doctor went through 1975. Premiere of the Jeffersons, Mr. Milton, one of your favorite programs, and amongst other great stuff in 75. Things like Pop Goes to the Movies, Hard Traveling Fanboys, NBA Team Podcast. Game 1 of the NBA Finals is tonight. Guys, the Raptors are up 10 at the half. Did you see that? Woo! And This Week in Sports, etc., etc. On the wrestling feed, Place Be Podcast earlier this week, back-to-backs for JR and I. On Monday, we did the May 8th, 1989 Meadowlands House Show with Mr. Jacob Williams, Jambalaya Jake. Then the next night, Peter Winson joined us for a double dose of Saturday night's main event from May and July of 1989. So check that out. In the 6th episode of Row 1, Seat 1, Ben Zanny welcomes Daniel Maccabi to talk music and his independent wrestling career. Check out our social media pages and message board at Bigelow34.proboards.com for information on our GWWE pay-per-view and TV match ever project. Get in on the conversation today and start researching your list. All right. Speaking of research, Steve Willie did a shit ton of research, and he's had to wait like 9 years to do this. He finally put the dust off the notes. All right, gentlemen. We are going back in time to October 9th, 2002, from the fairgrounds in Nashville. Yes, it is episode. What is the official number, Steve? Is it 14 or is it 15?
It is. It's 16 on the Impact Plus. The GWN Memorial Impact Plus ADHD Theater.
Okay, so
streaming
episode 16.
service.
Yes, episode 16 of the weekly pay-per-views. And I like the Impact Plus, actually. For those that don't know, Impact Plus is now the app that has replaced Global. I like it, guys. I think it's pretty cool. It's easier to maneuver on the Fire TV.
Yeah.
I like it online. What do you think, Nate?
It's certainly a much better interface for folks. Like it looks cleaner. It's easier to find things. You know, you're not searching, hunting, and pecking for different matches or different wrestlers. And I think they've actually added a bunch of new content too, in terms of like the compilation shows.
Right.
So yeah, it's still TNA/Impact. So if you're not a fan of it, you're not going to be a fan of this.
Right.
But they are giving a free trial for the first 30 days. So if you're interested and you want to, follow along with us, they've got all the NWA TNA pay-per-views on there that, we go back and look at. So check it out.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, very cool. Very cool. It's only like $8 a month. It's cheaper than actually the WWE Network.
As it should be. I don't think they could get away with coming out here charging $20 for this.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. All right. So it is October 9th, 2002, 1400 at the fairgrounds. And, of course, it was on paper. I think this one was live. I think this was a live show. I think they were doing 2 that night, and this was the early show. So
when you bring out all the stars like Herman Sadler, it's got to be live.
Exactly. Was this the Chris Rock one? No, that was the previous week, right?
No, this is the Chris Rock.
This is the Chris Rock one. So plenty of juice. Speaking of, gentlemen, I know I like to tease you guys with this. Anybody want to take a stab? Well, this one I'm just going to tell you because it was one of those special report episode issues, so I won't make a guess. Sports Illustrated, the previous Monday, October 7th, 2002, put out, of course, an issue. And this issue was a special report, America's Best Sports Colleges.
Huh.
Okay.
That's interesting.
They rank all 324 of them and the top 10 graduation rates.
Oh, okay.
Now, I'm going to let you go around the horn. I'm going to go around the horn. Well, it's only 2 of you. I'll give you the 2 schools. They didn't say which one was number 1 and number 2, but these were the top 2. Okay? I'll give you the conferences. That'll narrow it down so we can move along. So, Nate, one was Pac-12 and one was Big 12.
Since you brought up the qualification of graduation rates, I'm going to say Stanford.
Mm-hmm.
And let's go Texas.
Okay. Steve, what's your guess? I won't say if you're right or wrong, Nate.
I was going to go Stanford as well. Actually, my first thought was my first thoughts were UCLA and Stanford. I will stay with Stanford, and I'm going to go. This is 2002. Is Baylor in Big 12 in 2002?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, I'll go with Baylor because they have a pretty decent academic system back then.
Okay. You are both correct on Stanford. That's a no-brainer, really.
Yeah.
Brother Nate, hook 'em horns.
Nice.
It was Texas. So you were right. You were close, Steve. You had the right state. You both had the right. But yes, it says America's Best Sports Colleges, and it says who's number 1? Stanford versus Texas.
Yeah, I figured out of the Big 12 schools that are good in football, who's also got a decent basketball team, and I'm thinking around that time, Texas was probably pretty good.
Well, this was what, 3 years before Durant?
Yeah.
Yeah, about 3 years. And they were still, and Texas is pretty good. It's been only the last few years that they've sucked, so that they've struggled. So anyway, so that was the cover of SI on this week, October 7th, 2002. All right, Brother Steve, why don't you set the table for us? Again, it's October 9th, and how do we begin this fine evening?
Well, it is a good thing that R-Truth didn't go to Stanford or Texas, because he would be out to rip on those sports teams. And that's what
Yes.
he's doing here. Ripping on all the tennis, because we don't know this week. Will he be a cool heel, or will he just be a jerk heel? And it looks like today he's going to be a jerk heel. So already we have, some of like we talked about the notes for like 2-3 weeks old at this point, and I usually put little things that I might see in the crowd, just kind of notes of fans or things that people say, but I don't have the content fresh in my head. Usually I will watch a day or two before we tape.
Right. I watched it last week. 2 weeks ago.
Apparently I saw that there was a fan in a polo shirt that was the USA flag and a 70s mullet.
Oh.
So I want to go back and see that, because Flag Day is coming up soon.
It is very true. 15 days or so. Yes.
Yeah.
Was that the fan with the TNA acronym sign?
That might be. Not the fan that really wanted the U.S. to fight Saddam and Al-Qaeda like right now.
Yeah, the TNA stands for totally nuke Al-Qaeda.
Yeah. That guy was everywhere, too. He was just running around. He was really excited about dropping some bombs.
Like 3 things I like: a war, wrestling, and Chris Rock.
And NASCAR.
Yeah, we got to get to Hermie Sadler, because this guy, Hermie Sadler, was the big star coming out of this show, Steve Wille.
Well, he always is. And R-Truth did say in a dated reference, he was going to Sammy Sosa your ass, which I could only imagine means something with bleaching.
I was gonna say, is he making everybody whiter? Is that
or turning into an Italian dessert? I don't know.
Yeah, marbles will
Neapolitan.
Like, super balls will come out of your ass. Like his bat.
Yes.
God bless you, Sammy Sosa. Thank you for 1998. So Kurt Hennig comes out as a surprise partner for DX Lite, and like at this point, I wondered, did like Scott Hall go somewhere? Did he? Because he was the head of this group. Did he screw up? Did he get drunk? Who knows? So Kurt Hennig comes out, says, "I don't know." This is a quote. I rewound it and wrote it back down. "I don't know exactly what I got into tonight. I got hired to do a job." Which is just the most shoot comment I have ever heard on TNA so far.
That's tremendous. I agree with that. I'm looking up right now quickly if something happened with Scott Hall and let's see, TNA. That was let's see. No, he comes back. We will see him later this month.
It's weird because there's no mention of him at all.
No. The last time we saw him, well, in a match, him and Six Pac beat Elix, Skipper, and Lawler. Remember that match? That was a couple weeks ago. But according to Wiki, he's still around. He's just not there now.
Maybe he just missed a flight or something.
Maybe he was serving dinner on the plane. Very organic. So we will see Scott Hall again in a couple weeks. In the next couple weeks of TNA shows.
I mean, to TNA's credit, though, if you're hiring Scott Hall in this time period, it's always wise to have somebody as a backup just in case.
That is quite true. That was actually good forethought on the part of TNA. They won't get credit for that very often down the line, but they get credit for it here. So
we basically have a match that they had promised last week, except Kurt Hennig replacing Hall. It was Hennig, BG James, and X-Pac against Jarrett, Truth, and Brian Lawler, who brought out his plot device, his girlfriend.
Yep.
Sat her down, and then we didn't hear anything from her again. Nope. I said the match was okay, but the crowd was just, and since you said it's live and they're just starting out, maybe the Hermie Sadler, the excitement regarding the return of Hermie is just in the room, because this crowd was absolutely insane.
Yeah, they were.
Show.
Yeah, they were. No, I agree.
And I don't know if it's just because they had more people there because of the Chris Rock thing later, that they were going to need for the movie. So I don't know if they just was more people there, or if they plied them with alcohol or something. But yeah, the crowd was hot from the beginning.
Yeah, and there was someone in like the second row that was wearing a suit and was clearly not there to see TNA and was probably associated with the movie in some way. Eventually, BG James chased Jeff Jarrett away with a chair. There were a bunch of low blows right in front of the ref, but no DQ. X-Pac saved Hennig after Lawler hit him with a hip-hop drop. Then Lawler saved Truth after X-Pac hit a... I'm going to screw up the names, and I'm sorry. I'm going to keep going back and forth between X-Pac and Six-Pac over these episodes.
He's a Pac,
yeah,
but not the current Pac. We talked about him in the A block.
So essentially, Lawler pulled out the ref, punched him, and the guy who we talked about last time, who is dressed in all white and was clearly the fallback for Vince Russo's KKK guy, comes out. He now has a suit that says Mr. Wrestling number 3. There's a powerbomb, and Hennig does the perfect plex onto Truth for the win. Mike today said, "What just happened?" And I said, "Exactly." And then they go to the back, and we see BG James out cold after being hit with a pipe. And then they're questioning whether it is Jeff Jarrett or not, which probably means it is not Jeff Jarrett. This segment took how long, Scott? Not the match, the entire segment.
Probably maybe 20 minutes, 22 minutes.
Nate?
Yeah, I was going to say probably a good 30 minutes because the match was around 15, I think.
Yes, it was 26 minutes. So the shows are usually about an hour 52, hour 55. A full quarter of your show was this match and segment.
Yep. 14:20 is the official match time according to ProWrestlingHistory.com. I am going to say this, though. At least it opened the show, so we know that we weren't going to get this garbage at the end of the show. I will say that. I will say, well, hopefully that's true. But I feel like we've covered every main event slug in the opening. And what's funny is, as you just heard on our live read, JR and I are covering, we're in the WWF right now, 1989. And, of course, I'm looking at, prime Mr. Perfect. Curt Hennig here he looked awful. He looked bloated. You could tell he was having medicinal issues, which, of course, would lead to his death, 5 months later, I think. He was just bloated. His gut was hanging out of his onesie. He was all like flush red, and he should not have wrestled. He shouldn't have wrestled. That's pretty evident.
Yeah, this is, not even 89. You don't even have to go back that far. Even comparing him to like the final years of Nitro.
Yeah, 98, 99. Yeah.
He still was in decent shape in WCW.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think he should. That was dangerous. And maybe this is where TNA maybe needs to start thinking, you know what, maybe we need to stop, we're a little bit established now. We're a few months old. Maybe it's time for us to stop picking up, cherry picking the guys that leave the WWF in 2002, and start kind of really working this roster with youth. Because you keep bringing these Scott Halls.
Youth like Mr. Wrestling 3.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. At least he wasn't wearing like those diaper tights like Mr. Wrestling 2 did in the 83 Mid-South. Looked like he was shitting his pants during every match. I'm watching those now on in my viewing on the network, the 83 Mid-Souths, and his tights are so big they look like fucking adult diapers. So anyway, which is probably what Mr. Perfect needed. The match is 14:20.
It's whatever.
It was all right.
The fans liked it.
Yeah, that's all that matters. And again, I think, in terms of formatics, having this first was, I think, a smart move. Yes, you're right, Steve. We could be, with this show, you never know who the fuck's going to come out at the end. But I had a feeling that we were going to get lucky and be done with all these guys by the end for the rest of the night.
All right. Well, we went back to a nice recap of the AJ Styles Jerry Lynn ladder match from the week before. I did say I think it's a good idea to recap some of these feuds on each episode. Since you do, this isn't Raw. You're not tuning in every week for free. You got to plunk down your $10. So good idea here. Recap this, show what's going on, show the storylines, show what kind of action you're going to be expected to see. Jerry Lynn comes out and calls out Sonny Siaki. We're looking to fight him next week. Siaki comes up and throws him into the steel barrier. They show that Lynn's knee got caught in the guardrail, and Mike Tenay is screaming, upset. Oh my God, he hurt that knee in the WWF. And I do want to say that last segment we talked about kind of maybe like the pot shots or the talking about WWF on your programming, which they did a couple times in Double or Nothing. They did this so much in this episode. Tenay usually does. The amount of times they've already talked about the WWF in this show, half an hour in, is crazy.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, Jerry Lynn hurt that knee in the WWF.
Yep.
No one knows that.
Yeah.
No one knows what Jerry Lynn did in the WWF.
No, exactly. No, he was on Heat. Or
He was there for a hot minute.
Yeah, cup of coffee.
I did also like this segment, though. I thought it was an injury angle that was more well done, as opposed to in previous weeks where there was the trope of the champion getting jumped before their match. Every Shamrock defense, he got jumped in the back. There was a couple now with Jerry Lynn that he got jumped in the back. This one at least looked a little more realistic than, was that like the one that they did at the bakery across the street from the arena in the parking lot? Let's go drive the Jeep over to the bakery, a half block down the road.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, and it was good for Siaki because he needs somebody that can, at this point in his career, he needs somebody that can kind of be the general in the ring with him, and Jerry's a good guy to pair him with.
Yep, I agree with that.
The Jerry AJ feud has gone on for the entire 15 episodes.
Yeah.
So to give that a rest for a little bit is fine.
Yep. I agree. And we'll see some kind of jumbling of the X division as this show progresses. But takes us to our next match, right, Steve? Speaking of tag,
we had our. I'm going to need help with this one because I didn't remember 2 weeks ago, and I definitely didn't remember from a couple months ago or 6 weeks ago last time we did this. They had a quick second in the back with Six Pac wearing just a swank mesh shirt.
Yes.
And he came out to apologize to Loki.
Yes, for apparently some racially insensitive, because he was bad-mouthing killings. And I don't know, I think, I don't know, Loki gave him a look, kind of like Shaska Watley did to Jimmy Valiant, I think. I don't know. Something of that nature. It was something during that segment where he was laying into killings, and he might have said something a little...
about killings, and so apologized to Loki for it.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Because Loki was out there. I don't know.
All right. And then AJ Styles gets in Six Pac's face didn't really seem like any reason, and playing up the Punk, but yeah, whatever. SATs are out to face Harris and Storm for the tag titles in what I believe are probably Harris and Storm's first real challenge to see what kind of match they can wrestle. Well,
they've been wrestling so far a Harris brother and a Stiff. So this is definitely an upgrade, that's for sure. Anything's better than a Harris brother. We'll get more into them later.
So a lot of back and forth here. Storm works on the arm. Joel takes control of the knee, and Storm started doing lucha moves all of a sudden. He's pulled off a Rana. Harris with a spear. Shoved Jose and onto Joel from the post to the floor. For some reason, the crowd starts chanting "Kill the Cowboy," which I guess means the SATs are the favorite.
I guess. I don't want to kill Roger Morissette, though, so hopefully they have the right cowboy down here. Kill that cowboy. He's too good.
Yeah, to Storm and Harris is not Harris. Yeah, Harris. I was thinking of the bad Harris. This is the good Harris.
Oh, the good Harris.
To Storm and Harris's credit, they actually kind of played the heels for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they did. I noticed that too. Yep.
Yeah,
yes.
I thought this was a hidden gem. I really like this match a lot. There's some more moves. I remember a neck breaker they kind of draped him on the top rope and did a combination of a neck breaker and a moonsault for the SATs. Eventually, and again, it's harder to look back at this from a few weeks before.
I know.
Harris kicked out of a backdrop suplex moonsault combination, which I remember being pretty sweet. And one of the Maximals flew off the top rope. Storm got him with a super kick.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's Harris hits his finisher, gets broken up. They kept trying to get the Spanish Fly on and could not do it. And Harrison Storm won with a brand new finisher. And really enjoyed this match. I thought that this was by far Harrison Storm's best match to date in TNA.
Yeah, they got challenged here finally. All kidding aside, we were talking about one of the Harrises and some other schlub, but they definitely were pushed to the limit here, Nate. And obviously, it's being painted, and we've seen it enough that Harris and Storm are the face of the tag division. So I think they needed some credibility with that, and this match did that.
Yeah, I agree with Steve. This was easily their best match so far out of the shows that we've watched, and I think this is where they kind of stumble onto something where it doesn't work putting Harris and Storm in with these lumbering heavyweights. Because it not only limits what Harris and Storm can do, but it doesn't give the fans something to hook into. And now with this, when you put them in there with the Maximos, yeah, they're both faces, but the Maximos are like these lovable underdogs. And again, credit to Harris and Storm for being able to adjust on the fly to what the crowd was giving them. And yeah, this was a really good match between these four guys, and just kind of a glimpse of what will be to come for Harris and Storm.
Yep, I agree 100%. Definitely the face of the division for the time being. But the Maximos definitely showed their legitimacy. I don't know how much longer they stick around. I'm looking forward to seeing how far they go. But definitely went out there and did what they were supposed to do. And then,
all right. And then we get to this episode. It was so TNA. They had some really, you got your old WWF guys. You have your great matches. You have absolute nonsensical X Division action that we'll get to. You have celebrity, and then you have a real celebrity. And then they do this. So Goldilocks is in the ring, which I can't recall really happening.
Yeah.
Much.
No, very rare.
And out comes Chris Rock. Chris Rock, a huge star today, probably a way bigger star in 2002. That's when he's making movies. He's out to promote Head of State. He says, if you think this is fake, come on down and get your ass kicked. And that is it. That you have Chris Rock, and that is all you do with him.
I think you misphrased that, Steve. You have Chris Rock, and this is all he allows you to do with him. This is the I don't know if this is the quid or the quo, but this is the quid pro quo. And he's like, okay, you let me film a movie here, but this is about all you get. TNA is the best wrestling in the world with no enthusiasm behind it, and if you think this is fake, come down here and get your ass kicked, because I'm Chris Rock. Good night, everybody.
Coincidentally, this is also Drew Carey's new catchphrase on Price is Right.
Yes. Yes. He did a couple of things. I mean, leading into this, yes, he was promoting Head of State, but in 2002 he did Bad Company, and he did a documentary called Comedian, and then he did a cameo in the movie Pauly Shore is Dead.
Wow. Really?
Yep.
That's it? I'm sorry. Come on, Chris. Everybody loves you, man.
I'm looking at his filmography. He was in I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker? I didn't know that. Oh, yeah. He was. Oh, yeah. You know what he was? Rib joint customer.
Yep.
That's what he was.
How much for one rib? You got change for 100?
Well, to me, the first thing I ever saw him in was when he was Pookie in New Jack City. That
was his breakout.
Yeah, he was awesome in that. That's a good movie. I don't know if Andy Atherton could handle that on a Freak Out Drive-In.
And then he had like a good run in like the early 2000s with his HBO specials back when that was still a thing.
Right.
When they were a very good thing. Yeah. He was Boney T in Boomerang.
Yep.
Boomerang. CB4. We were talking about CB4, Nate.
CB4 is underrated.
It is underrated. Come on, Steve. We got to watch some CB4. Osmosis Jones.
Oh,
yes,
yeah, the
that's
Adventures
right.
of
He
Osmosis
was.
Jones. Yep.
Pootie Tang. Oh, yeah.
Pootie Tang is. I like Pootie Tang.
Pootie Tang. He was in Nurse Betty. I forgot. Anyway, we could go on and on. He was I forgot he was in Madagascar, but
oh yeah.
And funny trivia note, because of course he was the main TNA talent featured in Head of State, Jeff Jarrett.
Of course, he's got to knows his way into everything. It is important to note that we've been talking about Chris Rock for at least 5 times longer than he was on the show.
Look at this cast, and I'm going to get you sucker. Jim Brown, Bernie Casey, Antonio Fargas. Fucking Huggy Bear was in this.
Yep.
Isaac Hayes, Kadeem Hardison. Where was
That's
this
a
movie?
name I have not heard from in a long time.
It's been a while.
Mm-hmm.
He's actually on a Disney show now.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like the father of the spies or something.
Yeah, the show Zendaya's on, because my nieces like that show.
Yeah, he's the father. Yeah,
he's her dad. And they actually had an episode where he had to go out of town to his college reunion, and his wife was worried that he'd meet his old girlfriend, and his old girlfriend shows up, and it turns out to be Jasmine Guy.
Nice.
Like, okay, Disney.
They've been doing that a lot of these shows. It's Fuller House, like the last season was almost more for adults than it was for for kids, playing up that nostalgia.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we can continue on with Chris Rock's. Well, I'll look up Hermie Sadler's filmography while we continue on with the.
Excellent. So when we go to our first all X Division match, we got quite the combination of guys here. Kid Cash, Tony Mamaluke making his reappearance, Ace Steel making his reappearance, now with Monty Brown's music. So I wonder where Monty Brown is right now. And of course, Monty Brown's music then became Abyss's music later on, versus Loki. And we got Mortimer Plumtree out as well. A 15-minute clock appears on the screen, which I did not hear the announcers talk about originally. Maybe they did. But we made fun of the 10-minute Iron Man as part of the AJ Jerry Lynn. Mm-hmm. We are going to have a 15-minute Iron Man match with 4 people in the ring.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense at all.
So, yeah, once again, TNA to do something like this. Another one of those matches where there's just too much to call here. Mortimer Plumtree says that he's recruiting X Division people. No shit. That's what they've been doing for the last 3-4 weeks, is him coming up watching X Division people. Crazy arm drags by everyone. Hurricane Rana variations by Kid Cash, just a ton of them. Mm-hmm. Low-key is throwing in some kicks, and they're essentially just something that was happening in the dying days of WCW all the time, just completely ignoring the match and focusing on commentary with Mortimer Plumtree. It's one thing if you're completely ignoring the match to, say, talk about Terry Bollea. It's a whole other thing to talk about Mortimer Plumtree.
Correct.
Yeah, Kid Cash was just going all out in this match. It was crazy. There's a double springboard clothesline. I don't remember which 2 guys did that, but they stood on, I think it was Kid Cash and maybe Tony Mamaluke, did a springboard off of alternative crossover ropes, parallel ropes is what I'm going to say, and then collided with a clothesline in midair, which was incredible. Never seen that before. Kid Cash did a brainbuster on his knee, kind of like Adam Cole's last move. There's only 7 minutes gone, and there's no pins. It's been full speed ahead. I can't even read my own writing at this, but he's low-key got a arm breaker. Kid Cash threw a chair in Tony Mamaluke's face.
Yes, he did.
Body slam off the table and landed on his shoulder. Low-key got hurt. And we don't know if it was legit or not. He hurt his ankle. And eventually they said that Low-key had hurt his ankle in Japan, which makes me wonder when the heck he was able to go in Japan with this show every other week.
I know.
So Ace Steel started working on that ankle. They started doing roll-ups. And at this point, everyone is completely gassed. They burned themselves out in the first 10 minutes, and there's still 5 minutes to go. Can you help me with the finish here? I think it was Low-key was going for...
Somebody should have helped TNA with the finish.
Yeah. Because it was a huge flub.
Yeah.
Like
it was a flub.
The time expired.
Yes.
But they kept going.
Yep.
And it was like the Ultimate Warrior, Rick Rude, Bobby Heenan spot.
Yeah.
Pretty much
somebody
Mortal held down to Loki's ankle, and Ace Steel, of all people, ends up winning this match.
Ends up winning, yep. No, it was the WrestleMania 5 finish. Yep.
Yeah, and only it was, quite a few seconds after the bell rang. Just a mess.
It was kind of like the end of the Judgment Day 2000 Iron Man with Triple H and Rock, where they took the clock off because fucking Taker was like 20 seconds late or whatever. So they took the clock off the screen because they thought that was going to end in a shit show. TNA didn't bother.
No. I always wonder how that stuff happens, because just do it 20 seconds early or 30 seconds early to make sure you get to finish in, and then just have people diving around. You don't even have to do like the whole roll up thing at the last minute that they usually telegraph. Just have people stunned that it happened, looking around, and that time's just going to run out. Just dumb.
Yeah, no, it was pretty stupid. But Ace Steel,
Ace Steel wins. Interesting choice to get him the win with all these people that are on the roster and pretty much an unknown at this point.
And let me clarify, because Jerry Lynn got jumped. I don't think they've announced yet whether he's going to get the title shot or he's going to be able to defend the title later on. I'm pretty sure that they already said it. So Ace Steel is sitting here maybe as the number one contender for the X Division title, or the possibility that he may actually be handed the X Division title tonight because of what happened with Jerry Lynn.
Because if you're going to have an injury angle, you don't give him like a couple weeks and then, come back the next time and it's like, we're not going to be able to, continue here. I'm injured. I'm sorry. We're going to make a big thing out of this. You're going to give him 45 minutes, and if he's not ready, you're in trouble.
To hell with it.
So Ace Steel gets some sort of X Division title shot coming up later in the show. Right. But first, Hermie Sadler's got stuff to say.
What? Does he have I'm still trying to find his filmography.
This is the main event.
Was he the other rib joint customer? I'm gonna get you, sucker.
And to be fair, TNA has not had much of this stuff the last couple of weeks, but boy, so Hermie's got an NWA TNA car, and we should probably do a Google search for that and see if we can find what that looks like. But Bruce, car? Bruce is probably sitting on top of it, because here he comes in his dress with his tiara, asks if Hermie's a wrestler or a race car driver. For some reason, Jeff Jarrett comes out, which makes no sense. Jeff Jarrett insults his driving. Hermie Sadler's, are you going to be a man or a woman? None of this made any sense whatsoever.
No. I mean, I just find it funny they don't want to be pigeonholed, yet they're pretty much using a NASCAR driver to promote a Southern wrestling storyline.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very, very TNA. Very WCW, to be honest. I'm going to try and Google and see if I can find... It says he had multiple sponsors, according to his wiki. He was sponsored by Dollar Tree, Go Team... Yeah. Go Team VA... whatever the hell that is, and Total Nonstop Action Wrestling. So I don't know if the car was just a TNA car, but let me see if I can find it. Anyway, continue, Steve, while I look.
I mean, there's really nothing to continue about.
That
was it.
We can't really embellish the career anymore. He has no filmography.
Yeah, this is weird. And obviously Hermie would go on to have a deeper association with TNA. Like, he was all over their YouTube page at one point. Like, he had a YouTube show called The Hot Seat, I think, with Hermie Sadler. He had his own promotion, which basically was an excuse for him to bring in a bunch of TNA guys.
Right.
Due to his association with Jarrett. And Hermie Sadler found a way with little talent or ability to get a lot out of this wrestling thing.
I cannot find. I didn't realize he actually had a Global Force Wrestling sticker on his car. Later on in his career.
That was an accident. Jeff Jarrett kind of just snuck and slapped it on the back bumper.
Wow.
He was just trying to brand that thing everywhere.
And the thing is, this feels, you talk about the Southern aspect to it. They always had the issue of not, being on the fence about everything. Like, they either would shy away from it, but still have these Southern elements on the show. So it's like you really didn't get anything. Like, if you're a fan of that stuff, they didn't give you enough of it. And if you didn't like that stuff, you didn't like Hermie Sadler or Toby Keith showing up on your TV. And so I felt like if they should have done one or the other. Like, either don't do it at all or commit the whole way. Like, I think there was a bit later on when James Storm was going for his world title. And I think it was Montgomery Gentry and Cowboy Troy did his theme song.
What?
Montgomery Gentry and Cowboy Troy did James Storm's theme song and had him in the video. And it's like, they should have, because at the time they were still on Spike, so they had an association with CMT, I believe.
Spoilers, come on.
And so it's like, if you wanted to really do this, James Storm should have been at the Country Music Awards. James Storm should have been leaning into this persona, but they only had Mike Tenay talk about it in passing. Like, oh yeah, by the way, James Storm was on the red carpet with Montgomery Gentry and Cowboy Troy. Now let's talk about Eric Bischoff and Hulk Hogan. Like, wait a minute.
you know who that is? That's Cowboy Troy from Tough Enough.
Tough Enough.
Yeah, I would have either liked to see no Hermie Sadler or go 100% with Hermie Sadler.
That would have been amazing. But obviously he had a wrestling – he was a fan because we'll see him down the line. He was on an episode of SmackDown at some point. So he's obviously a wrestling fan.
I'm sure that was a big episode when Hermie Sadler crossed the battle lines.
Exactly, when he became a scab.
Wait a minute, that's TNA's Hermie Sadler. Is he a racer or a wrestler?
I'm glad he's a sports entertainer now. I'm glad he's a fan at least, but I'm also a fan, and I don't think that I should be put in the ring with Jeff Jarrett and Bruce. So.
No, I agree. All right,
enough of this fascinating segment though with
yes.
Steve, Willie, and Bruce. It'd be like Steve Willie's therapy session. That could be his Piper's Pit. So Bruce, why are you this way?
What is with this dress? All right. Now, another storyline in TNA, Steve, as we get to our next match, that another one that should really end. The ongoing Ron Harris plucks some schmuck out of the crowd to, well, in this case it wasn't a schmuck, but to take on a scrub team. So what do we got?
Yeah, the show continues to come off the rails here. So Ron Harris at least has someone decent, has Siaki with him. Mm-hmm. So you already know what's going to happen. He's searching for a tag partner. We know he's going to end up with his brother. I don't know when. I haven't looked ahead, but obviously that's where it's going.
So what you're saying is Ron Harris should have pulled a Cody Rhodes. I don't need a partner. I need my brother.
I need my brother.
So many white supremacy jokes in my head. But so we got Chris and Rick Michaels, who are no relation, and I did a little search on who Chris and Rick Michaels were. They did state that they were from NWA Wildside, and I knew that AJ Styles had their start. They had his start around there, and it turns out that Rick Michaels actually trained AJ Styles.
Okay,
he was AJ's trainer, so that, kind of cool. Let him on the show, but for some reason, get him a little payday, and whoever wins this match gets a shot at the tag titles. So we got the non-Michael siblings who we've never seen before, and Ron Harris and Siaki that have never teamed up before. You know, one of them is going to get a tag team title shot. The fans, for perhaps the first time in 16 episodes and 13 at the Asylum, started chanting boring. And I kind of like them all of a sudden because this really is boring.
Yes, it really is. Yes. They were not faking it. Yeah, it was not good. How long was this match? 7:20.
Yeah, way too long. It was the longest 7 minutes and 20 seconds of of the show.
Life. Yeah.
Siaki did pretty good getting some heel heat, but then like Harris like stopped the count because he wanted to get the pin, and even though Siaki had it won, and so of course he accidentally kicked Siaki. So then it makes you wonder, like, wait, is Sonny Siaki the face now? He just put out Jerry Lynn an hour ago. And now the Harrises, like Don Harris comes out, takes out Siaki. So nobody likes the Harris twins. Like, nobody. So wouldn't that make us have sympathy for Sonny Siaki? So my flow chart of who's who is just turning on itself right now.
Oh, my God. I don't understand this whole thing. Like, he was Don Harris is yelling at his brother one week. The next week he's shoving other guys off him to let Ron Harris get some kicks in. I have no idea what the fuck's going on here.
Yeah. And the worst thing about this, and it's an accomplishment to have something worse than the Harrises in a 7-minute match. The worst thing about this is you totally buried Sonny Siaki.
Yep.
Coming off of the Jerry Lynn angle.
Because you could have found, the last episode, they found that guy, like the new Bushwhacker or whatever he was.
Yeah. God.
You could have found any TNA security guy.
Was
that's
that Ashley
back there.
Hudson?
Yeah, you could have just put anybody in this role.
Yep.
You could have put any X Division guy. It doesn't matter. You just put Siaki over huge, taking out one of the top 2 favorites. Kind of low key crowd number 1 face, probably Jerry Lynn, number 2 in my world, in terms of getting responses from the crowd. So put him over as a huge heel, and then just put him in this slop. Just no reason for it. They had other guys back there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's the one guy that was actually starting to get a little juice going. Maybe like the next to AJ, maybe the next really good homegrown TNA guy, and that booking didn't help. Just so we can get the Harris brothers over. You know what it is? Brother Nate? It's a lethal dose of the Harris brothers.
I don't think the Harrises want to be associated with anything lethal.
That's true.
What's the opposite of lethal? That's what it will be.
Boring chant. That's the opposite of lethal.
Yeah, especially Jay Lethal.
Oh, yes. All right, so we have to get back to this Ace Steel situation. I guess we find out officially now, Steve, right, at this point, that Jerry Lynn is out, and I guess usually you get 30 days before you get your title stripped. In TNA, it's 30 minutes. And so now Mortimer Plumtree and Ace Steel are like, well, great, can I just have the belt? And then out limps, I think he was limping, out came Low-Ki, and they start jaw-jacking with each other in the ring, and then I guess they have a match.
Yeah, because Bill Behrens came out, even though he's like our copyright white old NWA guy.
Yeah, pretty much.
In charge of the show tonight, apparently. This was so weird. And I'm going to give him a compliment and a way to rebook this later on. But they made some sort of reference to Low-Ki picking a fight with Tammy Sitch. I have no idea what that is about.
No, I don't either.
They made it seem that it was going to be Ace Steel versus AJ for the title. Bob Armstrong came out and said that first we're going to have Low-Ki fight Ace Steel because this is not the way we're going to do things in TNA. Ace Steel immediately goes after Low-Ki's ankle, hits him with a chair shot, and immediately they call Ace Steel a winner via countout. So why are they even doing this? So then the match is Low-Ki loses twice. And then they say again that, hey, this isn't going to be the way that things go down.
Yeah.
So first it was a count out. Then it turned into a disqualification with Behrens and Armstrong. Then they just you know what? Heck with this. Anybody who is in the X Division can just come out and be in this ladder match. Do you think this was the plan all along?
Yes, I think it was. I do. I think they do realize, because we've talked about it a lot. Pretty much every episode, every segment we've done, all of our TNA segments, that they were promoting the X division as the jewel of the division. They got all the main event fucking slugs out of the way in the beginning of the show, and this is what they wanted to do at the end. I think they wanted to get all the guys out there again and have a huge killer match, and continue to show that, hey, these are the guys that are going to carry this promotion and get it off the ground. So, yeah, I do think it was planned. I don't know. What do you think, Nate?
I agree. I think this was the plan. I just don't agree with the plan. It's something that you should have spaced out. At least, at the very minimum, you should have saved it for the second tapings.
Right.
This is something that, you could have built up to. This is something that you could have got people excited about. Like you were saying, they could have done on the second set of tapings. Jerry Lynn, he can't defend his title, so he's got to vacate it. And then the next week, that's when we get these guys kind of jostling for position, and we get this bogus angle with Low Key and Ace Steel. And then on the next week, that's when we get to the ladder match. And you could have had a month worth of programming.
Yep.
Based off of this, but we're going to give you everything in one night. And the match ends up being decent, but it's certainly not what it could have been because they didn't take the time to invest in the storyline, Steve.
Yeah, and even if you were going to do it in one night, like the low-key Ace Steel part, like, okay, we're going to throw 2 more matches on it. Like, just have Ace Steel win, and yeah, it was just so much. It was so much. And if you want to tell the story, this is like what you decide you want to do. We want to have Mortimer, first we want to have Jerry Lynn injured. And then I can understand them saying, hey, on the show, like they kind of mentioned, hey, you already paid, $10 or whatever for this show. Uh-oh. Let the dog's out.
That's exactly what it was. It was Hermie Sadler's car. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah, so, they could have had the Jerry Lynn angle and said, hey, you paid your $10. We promised you an X Division title match, a ladder match. We're gonna have to throw this together and think about what we're going to do. Okay, we have this match, this 4-man Iron match. AJ's already in the match. Whoever wins this goes against AJ. Have Ace win. Have Ace AJ. Have that match. Do some sort of schmaz, the next week. I don't know. Like I'm just and make it take the whole show, like that whole hour. Like put the Chris Rock stuff before. Have the NWA TNA race car run backwards over Hermie. Skip the Bruce and Jeff Jarrett stuff. We don't. No one wants to see Bruce versus Hermie next week because that's happening.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So all right. So everyone comes out who is already been on the show. Yeah, the SATs already wrestled half hour ago. Ace Steel wrestled 15 minutes ago. AJ, it's like, what the fuck's going on? Kid Cash, who just murdered himself for 15 minutes. Tony Mamaluke also murdered himself for 15 minutes. So those are your guys who are in the ladder match for the title. Jerry Lynn probably not even at the hospital yet, kayfabe-wise, but who cares? And so here we go. We're going to have a ladder match for the title, which, if they just decided to do this alone, cool. It's like a Money in the Bank match. Let's do it. But just an odd way to get there.
And then our winner.
This is a crazy match.
Yeah.
This is like, and I watched this before Money in the Bank, and it is a car wreck. There are brutal spots, and for people who complain that there are too many spots in today's wrestling, and we can go back to segment 1 when we were talking about Young Bucks versus Pentagon and Phoenix. I can, there are people like, oh, that's just too much. They just do too much. Go check this match out. Go check out some of these shows. And this was 17 years ago, almost to this point. This blows that out of the water. Just, yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy. Six-Pac winning the X Division title.
Yeah.
Seems
did come off. Yep.
Yeah. Seems, I don't know if it was a rib or if it was, I don't hate it because at least he is an X Division weight. Honestly, there's no one else in the match you would have probably given it to other than AJ again. But I don't know if AJ was planning on having bigger fish to fry. So I didn't hate Six-Pac winning, believe it or not.
I didn't, because I thought it gave legitimacy to the belt in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that Six thought this was important enough to leave the main event feud that has the heavyweight title involved to get involved in this match. So it doesn't seem like, hey, this is a step down. It is a step sideways or even a step up. So that didn't bother me. This match was dangerous. Yep. There were so many spots in here. The ladders were not safe. I thought someone was going to get seriously hurt.
Get mercuried.
Yeah.
4 years before the mercury happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was rough. It was not very protected at all. What do you think of Six-Pac winning, Nate?
I didn't mind it, even though it felt a bit out of place, given that we gave so much to Ace Steel on this show.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt like we introduced this new heel. We give him a manager. We give him a big win. And now we relegate him to, at best, the number 2 heel in the division behind X-Pac. Or I guess X-Pac's a face.
Yeah, more AJ-esque, I guess.
Yeah. So AJ, you got AJ, then you got Ace Steel. And then on the other side, I guess you have X-Pac and Jerry Lynn and Low Key. But yeah, it was a decent match. It was there's some really cool spots, but again, it's something that could have been pushed off for another week. Matter of fact, spoiler alert, next week we get AJ and X-Pac in a ladder match. And so
Why?
Right. So it's like why if we were going to do that, if that's where we're going, we could have just waited a week. Or waited, in the context of them shooting the show, we could have waited till the second set of tapings. So, yeah, I think X-Pac being in the X Division is a good thing because he kind of is the forefather to a lot of these guys in terms of in-ring style and work rate and all that stuff. So he fits. It's just I think they took the most convoluted route that they could have decided to get to this point.
And then the show just ends.
Yep.
He grabs the belt, he holds it up, people look weird, and then the copyright. I didn't hate this show. I did it was entertaining at the end. The X Division stuff was really good, even though it was, moderately, manslaughter. But, again, I have to say, I like the choice of putting the main event slugs at the beginning and forget about them, although Jarrett did come back with that weird Bruce stuff. But, I was fine with the way that laid out. Overall, the show it was okay. I mean, on a 1 to 10, maybe I'd give it like a 5.5. But I don't think it was terrible. I thought it was pretty standard for TNA right now that they're really focusing on the X Division.
It was kind of and I think Steve said it off the top. If you're looking for a snapshot of what TNA was at this time, this show might have been the best example to date of what TNA is.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
You have a really good 75-minute show here. You could have done the 6-man opener.
Mm-hmm.
I was more than fine with that tag team title match. I honestly thought it was a hidden gem, and you could have just shored up this X Division title thing, and you could have still done it. It would have been okay.
Yeah, we didn't need the previous X Division match like that. We could have just had vignettes. They could have announced this is what we're doing because Jerry Lynn can't defend his title.
Mm-hmm.
And then we could have either vignettes or Goldilocks interviewing the participants instead of the 15-minute Iron Man match.
Right.
Crazy. All right, so we will go back to the fairgrounds in 2 episodes, episode 129, and see if there'll be a Hermes Sadler ladder match with his car keys hanging above the fairground tent ceiling. So
maybe that's what AEW needs. They need to build up to a brother versus brother feud between Hermie and Elliott Sadler.
Who had more pub on SmackDown Live? All right, guys, tremendous show, as always. Check us out on Facebook, Main Event, and, of course, that's where the show is posted as you're hearing it. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Not sure what we'll do. We'll do something wrestling related. Super Showdown will be the previous Friday. We can chat about that. Any other AEW news? Oh, yeah, we can't talk about that. Where is it again? Wakanda? No.
It's Agrabah.
Agrabah. Thank you. And we could have Brandon Howard on, and he can yell and scream. We will have Brandon on down the line, probably closer to July when the second quarter ends. But, Brother Nate, you have the shoe for our next installment of the New Japan Classic Match Picks. Brother, you haven't told us what your picks are yet privately, so we can watch something. So get the wheels turning, my brother.
Trying to see when Chris Rock showed up in New Japan. When's the last time Chris Rock appeared at the Tokyo Dome?
Well, we can we'll send a message out to Kevin Kelly and see if he can do the English dub over that for us.
Yes. He had to do the dub over of the Japanese version of "I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker." It wasn't a rib joint; it was a boneless rib special.
How much for one cup of sake?
Oh God! The sequel of New Jack City, where it was black tar heroin, straight from the Yakuza. Nino Brown selling. God, what a great movie! I haven't seen New Jack City in ages. So we'll do that. So episode 128 in 2 weeks, we'll talk some WWE news, TNA news, maybe some Impact news, maybe things popped up, AEW news, etc. And of course, we will have our next installment of the New Japan Classic Match Picks with Brother Nate making the picks. Curious to see. I thought maybe Brother Nate, since we talked about this guy last time out, maybe a little Muda action, maybe. Giving you an idea, just throwing it out there. You never know. Because we talked about Muda on our last when I was talking when we had our the two Okada matches because of what happened on the G1 Supercard. So something to think about.
It's either Muda or Captain New Japan retrospective.
Wow, that's very interesting.
In honor of Avengers Endgame.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. For Brother Nate, for Brother Steve, I am Brother Scott. You've been in the main event. Enjoy NXT TakeOver 25. I will be there Saturday night in Bridgeport. Enjoy, and we'll talk to you in 2 weeks.
Hey, Steve Willie.
Hey, Nate Milton.
I don't know if you saw this, but researching this episode of TNA, I went on Chris Rock's IMDb, and apparently he's got a new movie coming out next year. The premise is he's a politician who is trying to ascend to a higher office while dealing with the pains of living a gluten-free lifestyle.
Ooh, okay.
It's called Bread of State.